watch me educate. Yeah, we been, could've started, but it's never late. Do it for my kids, yeah, let's set it straight. Do it for your kids, gotta set it straight. It's time to regulate. We need change now. We need solo, we need...
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. And Harshit, welcome to you as well. We have with us today Dr. Aggarwal. Doc, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you practice, what your practice is like.
Sure. So my name is Harshit Aggarwal. By training, I'm a prosthodontist and I practice in Northern Virginia. My practice is a regular GP practice, participating in regular private insurances. And I've been a business owner for a good decade now.
And when did you graduate dental school and what was your journey there like?
Okay. So that's a long time ago, Doc.
I know. It's a long time and a long journey.
Journey, yes.
At least a 12-hour flight.
Yes. So I graduated dental school in India, in Bombay. That's where I was born and brought up. My parents are physicians. So my father is a physician. My mother is a dentist. I entered dental school when I was 18 years old in 2000, and I graduated in 2004. After 4 years of dental school in Bombay, you have a compulsory 1 year of what they call an internship. It's the same thing as a GPR over here that you do at the same university. So 2005 is when I finished my dental education.
Okay. I think something that a lot of people don't know about or they have maybe misconceptions about is the higher education path that exists in a lot of European countries.
Yes.
For instance, dental school is a 4-year program. It's not, hey, go to undergrad, go to dental school. Talk to us a little bit about that journey and talk to us a little bit about the difference in the educational mechanisms.
100%. It is so different. And I can say that with firsthand experience because once I came to the United States, I did my specialty. I was a faculty at Marquette University. So I taught the same program that I was once a part of a few years ago. So going back to the original question, the education in India is, call it fast tracked. I entered dental school when I was 18 years old. I graduated when I was 22, 23, and that is pretty standard and normal. The dental degree is the actual bachelor's degree. So my dental degree is called Bachelor of Dental Surgery.
And it's the same for MDs as well.
Exactly, it's the same. It's MBBS. So what it does is it fast tracks your education. You're molding minds when they're
More
moldable,
pliable.
More pliable, yeah. You learn much better. You learn faster. You're sharper. But the downside is you may get pushed into a corner that you don't like because you've not achieved that level of, call it, maturity or knowledge of knowing that this is what I want to do. Right. I had a few classmates who didn't want to be dentists, but they got pushed into that mold. And like year 1 or year 2, they dropped out because it just wasn't for them. Right. So it is a very unforgiving model, I believe. And I may be using the words too harshly, but I still think it's a very unforgiving model. But it is a model that'll bring the best diamond out of the rough. Right. The way the education is done is also very different. Like first year, second year, we had classes with the medical students, right? The books that we referred to were the original textbooks that were written for that subject. Dental materials, it was Skinner's and Phillips. It wasn't a small little book or presentations or nothing. No, we read from the original textbook. All the clinical subjects, we had the Glickman, the Schillenberg, the McCracken. Um, we went down to the basics. The foundational blocks were laid. Classic example, cements today, or even pharmaceuticals today. I'm still trained to call them by their pharmaceutical name, not by their trade name. When I'm with other doctors in a lecture, I'll be like, "What cement do you use?" And they'll be like, "Oh, I use Reliax." I'm like, "What is Reliax? Is it a glass ionomer? Is it a resin modified glass ionomer? Is it a resin? Which one are you using?" So that's the difference, in we went down and we drilled to the chemistry, and that is what we learned, right? There was a higher emphasis that was placed on learning the technique. How do you mix cement? That was literally one of our exams. We had three cements in front of us: zinc oxide eugenol, a resin, and a glass ionomer. And we had to mix the cement in front of the professor, right? So that created a good foundation on which you can build anything that you want.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I imagine, let me move this a little bit for you.
Mhm.
I imagine that it also gave you a greater understanding of the possible drawbacks of auto mixers and things like that.
100%. I don't have auto mixers in my office for any cement. Any temp that comes into my office, the first thing I teach them is how do you mix cement? Literally, that is the first thing, because um, they don't know. And they're like, well, no doctor has taught me this. And I'm like, they should be. As a doctor, it is your responsibility what your assistant is doing. It is not that, oh, the assistant makes a temp, I'm not responsible. No, that is not how it is. You are responsible for everything that happens in your office. And you should be able to train every single thing, especially clinically in your office. So, yeah,
So, talk to me a little bit about your journey into the profession. We've kind of covered what the education was
Mhm.
like, but talk to me a little bit about why you became a dentist.
Great question. And it is such a funny story when I look back. So, like I said, my parents come from very humble backgrounds. They're doctors, and in India, it's different, where by default, if you are a physician or a dentist, doesn't mean that you make a lot of money. No, it's very different. I grew up in a small little apartment, 700, 800 square foot apartment, and I shared my room with my grandmother. Uh, and you
That
know,
must have been awkward during your teenage years.
yeah, let's not get there. There was no socks on my door. Just let's say that.
There you go. There you go.
um, so it's very humble beginnings for my family. My parents moved to this apartment. First job for my dad. He had to walk a mile to get to the bus stop, to catch the bus, to catch the train, to go to his job.
Now, was it uphill both ways and in the snow?
Luckily, no snow, just heat. Maybe rains, but yeah. Uh, and he used to travel like 2 3 hours every day, get a job at one of the train stations as one of the doctors at the organization, and then he would travel back. And not far away from where we lived was a fishing village. And the chief, or one of the chiefs of the fishing village at that time, learned about, hey, there is a doctor in the area. So he approached my dad, and he's like, hey, we don't have a doctor over here. Would you be the village doctor? And my dad agreed. He's like, sure, no problem. And at that time, they struck a deal that the rent for his space would remain at this amount until he practiced. And till date, that is what his rent is. So my dad has become a doctor for that area for, I don't know, 45, 50 years at this point now. It's no more a village, it's a thriving urban metropolis at this point. But he's seen generations of patients. He's seen four generations in front of him. He's attended weddings, he's attended uh, deliveries, and now those kids have kids. He's become part of their family, right? um, I would see him take house calls at 3 a.m. He put patient care first. Uh, Whenever we traveled, like locally, when we had a car, there was always a bag, a briefcase in his car, and he called us the visit bag. And the visit bag basically was the basic things he needed for basic medical care, all the emergency drugs, a stethoscope, etc., etc. Because he's like, if someone calls me and if they need me, I should be able to walk out of this restaurant, go attend to them, and then come back.
So it's kind of a callback to early Americana with house calls.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. And patient care always came first. No matter what, he would do that. And that really jived with me, right? growing up, looking at that, also culturally, everyone would be like, oh, you're going to become a doctor. Your parents are doctors, right? And it used to drive me up the wall. And I'm like, no, I don't want to become a doctor. Like, and I did everything that I could do to say that I'm not going to be a doctor. My entire friend circle was into computer science. I was one of those
You
kids.
only have one of two, well, one of three career paths in India: doctor, lawyer, or engineer.
Engineer. That is it. That is it. Right. So I would just hang out with them. I would go to networking parties. We would like spend all night playing games. And I still, to date, I have always built my own computer, my own desktop. I've never bought a computer. I'll assemble parts, right? So that was me growing up. And then what happens is, in India, you have 10th grade. The next 2 years are what we call junior college, 11th and 12th grade. And then from 12th grade, you directly enter the profession, either engineering or medical. And the way it works is, to enter either of these fields, you have to sit for this common entrance exam, like the DATs over here. And you're preparing for one or the other, right? So I'm preparing for the engineering exam, of course, because I don't want to be a doctor. About 6 months before the medical entrance exam, okay, roughly about 6 months, I wake up one morning and I'm like, I want to become a dentist. There is no rhyme or reason to it. There is no logic to it at that point. I think I was one of those raging hormonal 18-year-old kid who doesn't know what he's doing, and he just makes split-second decisions without thinking of the ramifications, right?
What did your mom and dad say whenever you clued them into this? So they're like, finally.
Right? That's what they think in their head, I guess. But they're very supportive. They're like, oh, I thought you wanted to become an engineer. What happened to you? Like, internally, they were very happy, I could tell. But I just woke up one day and I said, this is what I want to do. And that's what I did. And not only that, I said, I am going to do dentistry from the same institution that my parents graduated from. So both my parents graduated from the same university, did their medical and dental respectively. And I said, I will do dentistry only from this school, otherwise I'm not doing it. Almost like a self-sabotage sort of a scheme. I don't know what I was doing. But luckily, my grades were decent. I got in, and yeah, that's what I did.
I was kind of locked in too. Whenever you and I spoke about our stories earlier, and I went to school much later in life than many people, and my wife had just bought a practice, so we couldn't exactly move. So I applied to UT Houston.
Okay.
I applied to UT San Antonio, thinking, well, I guess I could get an apartment, and then I applied to Harvard just for shits and giggles. It's like, if I get into Harvard, I'll just go, hey, I got into Harvard. I didn't get into Harvard. So
I think it was a good thing you didn't get into Harvard, but I digress.
Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about differences in the professional courtesies in India versus the United States. It's very well known that MDs disdain dentists by and large here in the United States. Is there that same kind of divide, or do they see each other as just subspecialties?
So I think things may have changed now, but back when I entered dental school, most kids who came to dental school were the kids who couldn't get into medical school. Like, there were very few kids who actually wanted to do dentistry. And our batch, luckily, my entire group was the one who chose dentistry above all professions. I could have gotten into med school at that same university, but I didn't. So I think there was a time where a lot of kids in dentistry were not good enough for medical school, hence they landed there. Is there a disdain? I don't think there is a disdain, but I still think to a certain point there may exist a little bit of a difference of, are you a doctor or are you not, right? I think over time it's gone down quite a bit because dentists are successful and we are doctors, just like our medical counterparts. But I still think it's not very different from the United States.
So,
and other people may have different opinions, but
so in your journey, was there a moment that really defined the direction of your career, of everything that you've built since then?
So I think it's not a single point or single turning point. I think it's been incremental things that have happened that have shaped my career and my life to where I am right now. So it wasn't a single thing that happened. Like, for example, in dental school, I was an oral surgery student. I was great at surgery. The department loved me. That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be an oral surgeon. Fast forward today, I don't even extract a grade 3 mobile tooth. I do zero surgery, right? I'm a prosthodontist. So what changed? So I met once again a very good friend now. At that time, he was a mentor who did prosthodontics from Australia and he'd come back. His name is Akhil Reshamwala. He lectures on digital dentistry in the Asian circuit. Um, and he fundamentally changed my view of what prosthodontics should be and can be in India. And I'm like, that is what I want to be without any regard to what my career would be after I graduate. I had no idea. But point is, there was an incremental change that happened in that trajectory.
I had a pros professor. He was a young guy,
Mhm.
and his great love was obturators,
Okay.
and it really changed the way I thought about what a prosthodontist really was.
Mhm.
You know, these guys are making life
Changing.
changing, absolute life. I mean, you know, failure of synthesis and things like that. And he's addressing these all with his interdisciplinary team, orthodontist, oral surgeons, pros for the, you know, the prosthetics and stuff.
Mhm.
And it was it was humbling to think of what a dentist could be.
Mhm.
And then you see all the other prosthodontists, they're not
Prostheses, yeah.
doing quite the same thing. But I
Yeah.
mean, as dentists, as general dentists, we're the same. I mean, all of us have very different practices, which is one of the reasons we do this podcast.
Yeah. And I think I say this to everyone: prosthodontics as a specialty, right, is not as much learning a skill set, it is learning a mindset. Because on a day to day basis, a regular prosthodontist, right, outside of, say, maxillofacial, um, doing full mouth rehabs or implants, the basic foundational clinical skill is the same. It has been taught to you as a dental student. You know how to do a crown prep, you know how to make a denture. A denture is a full mouth rehab. An All-on-X or 28 crowns at the end of the day follows principles of a denture, period, right? So, what is a prosthodontic residency all about? Because you know the clinical skills. What are you learning?
I can guess.
Please do.
I would say you learn the why behind the how.
100%. It is a mindset, right? You're training your mind. You're training why am I doing this way? It's like Matrix and the Neo, right? You are in the Matrix, you don't know what it is, but being a prosthodontist, you get to see the code behind. Why do we take vertical relation this way? What are the different theories of taking vertical relationships, right?
Are you a Shibashi guy?
I am a go back to the science guy, and I'll explain that to you. So there is East Coast prosthodontist, there is West Coast prosthodontist. You have the LVI, you have the Spear, you have the Dawson, you have the Cois. Um, in pros residency, we studied all the literature on which these um, philosophies have been built.
Modalities.
Exactly. Right. So each school of thought has a certain foundational base. In pros residency, at least in mine, we learned all of these philosophies. Right. So now I can go look at a patient and say that, you know what, I think this is more a little bit on the LVI where we lead a little bit extra vertical. That's going to help. Versus, hey, this is a COCR case, very tight boundaries. So it gives me the opportunity to not take a philosophy and jam it in every patient, but to take a patient and make the right philosophy fit for them. So that is what prosthodontics is. It's a mindset. It's a point of view. It is the why that you said.
So Of course, I have to ask you the same question I asked you this morning. Are you a CR or a CO guy?
And I think my response is going to be the same. I am, what is the repeatable position I can achieve in this patient guy,
Agreed.
right? Is it CO? Is it CR? Is it MIP? It depends on every patient. Um, I am not a big fan of pushing a certain position or hence a philosophy on a patient. At the
We're going to get a lot of hate comments down from
Oh,
the
yes,
dogmatic guys.
we will. And here's the thing, I believe I'm a contrarian. I believe that I don't need to please everyone and I stand for a certain philosophy. And that's okay. I'm okay with it. The people whose opinions of me matter to me, I can count on my right hand, right? Outside of that, I know I have a compass. It's an ethical compass. It points north, and I'm going to do the best for my patient.
That's very well said. So, whenever we're doing this podcast, I always like to have people share their actual failures because we like to talk about our successes. I mean, Facebook is nothing but someone else's
Mm-hmm.
highlight reel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, talk to me about some setbacks or some failures that you had that taught you important lessons, both as a dentist and as a business owner.
There are so many. Where do I start,
The
right?
journey usually has many,
Many.
many
Yeah.
pitfalls.
Yeah. So, first of all, I would say that it's not as much a failure, it's more I fell down and I had the energy to get back up again and start walking. So, I didn't fail, I fell and then I started back up, right? Observe a kid, a 5-year-old kid, they're running, they trip over something. They don't sit and moan and bitch about it.
Oh, some of them do.
Yeah. But the point is that you stand up and you start walking again, right? At different points, I have failed in personal, in professional instances that has taught me many lessons, right? I read this quote somewhere: to live, you have to die once. And that death could be a major injury, a major medical problem, a divorce, loss of a loved one in your life. And from there, you start building back up again, right? So, yes, I have died multiple times, and that's what's culminated to who I am right now. And now let's dive into specifics of what were my point of failures. Um, Dental school, I failed the class 2 cavity preparation exam. I barely passed it, right? Um, and that was a huge setback because I was by no means the top 10 students or whatever. I made it to a point where I was good and people knew that, okay, this kid is a good kid. And it all came down to being overconfident and cavalier about healthcare. And I said, I made the wrong decision. Hence, I am paying for this decision and I need to be more careful about this. And that was something that I learned early on in my career, where even today, whenever I start a procedure, be it a filling or be it a crown, I will check 3 times which tooth I'm working on,
Absolutely.
because that was the failure that I did early on in my career. And it still haunts me to death, right? Um, Fast forward residency. I did my residency at New Jersey Dental School. It was a huge learning curve, not just as a resident and a student, but also as a human being, because now I'm in this foreign country with a foreign culture. I don't understand customs. I don't understand so many things, and I'm just trying to learn everything through a fire. It was like drinking through a fire hose every day. And I was thirsty. I was drinking every single day. Um, and yes, I made so many mistakes as a human, where I judged people for things that I shouldn't have judged them for. I made assumptions that I shouldn't have, which now, coming back, looking back, whenever a patient sits in my chair, I always give them an unbiased treatment approach, irrespective of money or what I think they can afford or not. Right? Because in residency, we saw a lot of patients who couldn't afford services. I made an assumption on an individual, happened to be money was not a concern for that individual. Right? And that taught me a lesson that never judge a book by its cover.
Well, not just that, but offer the same health care to everyone.
Everyone.
There is an inherent bias that a lot of us have, and it's hateful and it's discriminatory.
It is.
And that is if someone comes into our practice and we prejudge their wallet rather than their mouth, we treat the wallet.
Agreed. And I'll build a little bit more on that. So in my practice, like I said, I have all private insurances. I also participate in United Concordia, which means I see a lot of active duty military patients. Fee schedule is not the greatest. I'm probably the only specialist who's in that network in my area. But my point is, irrespective who walks into my practice, be it the honor guard or be it the commandant, they will get the exact same service and quality of work. Be it the CEO of a $500 million company or the janitor who's my patient, they will get the same quality and the same attention to detail, irrespective, because I'm not treating who you are, I'm treating a human being.
One of my favorite sayings is the measure of a human being is how they treat people who can do nothing for them.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that.
So I want to talk a little bit about how your upbringing and your personal background has influenced your approach to entrepreneurship. But before that, we should kind of get into what all you've created, what all you've made, your different companies and things like that. So can you kind of briefly carry us through what you've done business-wise, entrepreneurship-wise?
So I'll answer that question by first answering a little bit more of your previous question, the setbacks and failures that helped me get to where I am. So this was during COVID. That was probably the darkest time of my life, where I was going through a very ugly divorce. COVID had happened. I was going through a partnership split, and I had very tense family relationships because of what was happening in my life. So that was the point when I metaphorically died. And that is when I looked inside of me and I asked existential questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What is the purpose of my life? What am I doing going forward? How do I make an impact, right? And during those 1.5 to 2 years were the growth, the personal growth of me as an individual, where I followed a lot of who I call now my mentors. I've never met them, but I've read all their work. And they shaped my philosophy as a human and as a person. And then on the medical side, I watched this documentary on the Mayo Clinic, the Mayo brothers, the William Mayo, Wardle Mayo, and how they established the Mayo Clinic, what it stood for, and how it evolved over a period of years. And that story really stuck with me because they established a clinic out up in the snow capped areas of Minnesota, in a small little village. And they stood for something. They stood for true medicine and true care, right? And I said, is there an organization like this that exists in dentistry? And there is none. The Mayo Clinic has a dental department. All major universities have a department. But is there a dental organization that stands for all specialties under one roof, research, education, which is also a nonprofit? And it doesn't. So I said, that is what I'm going to make. I'm going to make the Mayo Clinic for Dentistry, where everything is under one roof. Everything is research and science based. All verticals are within the organization. And hopefully, I have inspired enough people to carry forward this torch and this legacy after I'm dead, because at that point, it is going to become a nonprofit that will be run by a board. The Mayo Clinic that we see today is an evolution of 100 years. The vision that I have for my organization is a 100-year vision, right? It's not going to happen in my lifetime, I know it. But at least I hope I can build a foundation large and strong enough and inspire enough people that they can carry forward my torch or my vision.
You mentioned in there that all verticals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you need to expound upon that because I know a little bit about your model,
Mm-hmm.
and you mean all verticals.
I truly mean all verticals, right? So, all specialties of dentistry. I think that's a list that the ADA has, so go look it up, right? I'm not going to get into that. General dentistry, lab, research, education, medical aesthetics, right? And the latter ones are the ones that typically most people don't think about, right? So we have a philosophy in our organization that is we will grow with the right person, not with the right opportunity, but with the right person. Because at the end of the day, healthcare is a person, a people based, hate to call it a business, but it's a people based process.
Why not? Why not call it a business?
Sure, let's call it a business. It's a person driven business. So I will grow my organization based on the individual who comes in, who shares the same vision. And if they share the same vision, let's build upon that. So right now we do family dentistry, we do prosthodontics. I have an absolutely fantastic surgeon, Dr. Leo Perez. Um, Great human being, skill set as a surgeon is unparalleled. I've not seen any surgeon work like him. Um, so trying to build out the surgery department. Um, about 3 or 4 years ago, I got tired of the labs around me and the stupid practices they have. So I'm like, okay, time to build out the lab. So I built out my own lab, and we'll talk more about it in detail uh, to support the organization. From there, I started saying, okay, now I need to educate people. So I started lecturing. We have a vision for the education platform now. Probably early next year, we launch our education platform where all courses for professionals would be almost free at no charge because these are things that they need to know, right? And then the latest addition was our medical aesthetic practice or our med spa called Beyond Aesthetics, where we are truly doing facial aesthetics, lasers, fractional ablation, plasma, and now we've graduated more into medical model procedures where we are doing IV therapy, we are doing drug weight loss, or drug assisted weight loss. We may get into hormone replacement. We're getting into body contouring. That is a machine that I literally signed yesterday morning while I was on the flight, where we'll get into fat loss and body contouring also in the med spa. So I think the idea is to build out all verticals where dentists are also physicians, just like you said, doc. We are doctors at the end of the day. And I think we end up restricting ourselves more than anyone else around us. We tie ourselves into a box and say, this is the small box I like to live in. Oh, pity me, please. No, that is not the case. The world is your oyster. You can fly. There are regulations. They are meant to be for a certain reason. And provided you follow all regulations, everything is possible. And I think that is what I want other people to get inspired on. Everything is possible. Look outside the box. There is so much more you can do.
There's no box.
There is no box.
So one of the things I want to bring up and see if it's in your plans for the future, I would love to see medicine fully integrated.
Mhm.
I mean, I know you're a huge sci-fi fan too. And we're bags of mostly water with a hole at both ends.
Yep.
So the entire spectrum of medicine starts at the mouth, and well, we know where it ends, right?
Exactly.
So have you thought of integrating more completely with MDs and perhaps ODs or DOs rather, and actually bringing comprehensive, true holistic, not in the meaning of naturalistic or biological or what have you, healthcare to the masses. What do you think about that? And do you think it's a business plan that could possibly work?
100%. 100 years into the future, that is going to be the status of the organization because, once again, the mouth is a part of the body. You cannot isolate it and just look at it from a single lens. Will I see that happen in my professional career in the next 10, 15, 20 years? I hope I can, right? The idea is the foundation of the organization is based neck above. And since the neck above is connected to the body, there will be specialties within medicine that get added. The number of MDs will be far lesser than the number of dentists because the foundation is still dentistry, right? But yes, there is going to be a tie into the physician model. Right now, we do have a physician like Dr. Perez, he's an MD OS. So he brings in a lot of those medical concepts in. We do have medical directors who are going to step in and help us bring those things in and develop as a larger medical based model.
I'd love to see you bring cancer treatment in as your first thing, because I think that that's one of the areas where it's so easy for dentists to push into and say, okay, look, we have a specialty, you have a specialty. Between the two of us, we are greater than the sum of our parts.
I never thought of it that way. You just sparked a whole new chain of thought in my mind right now.
Well, think about the treatments you've seen for oral facial cancer.
Yeah.
And I mean,
And I agree. And once again, tying that back in, it ties into pros and oral surgery very, very closely. So yes, 100%.
yeah, I'll never forget. I had just gotten my cone beam about 3 weeks before, and had a patient come in, and she had just a very suspicious mass in her sinus and in her jaw, on the left hand side. And I told her, I said, look, I know you have some desires. I know you want to do ortho and you want to do some veneers, and said, I want this addressed first.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't look right to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so we sent her off, and suffice it to say, it took about a year before her doctors knew what was going on. But it sparked an interest in her, because she said, well, I've been having some weird issues and my doctors can't pin anything down.
Yeah.
And I said, I want you to go to an oncologist.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be liver cancer that had metastasized. I got a letter a year later, and it was a picture of her son graduating. And she said, I wanted to thank you because you were the only my oncologist tells me you were the only reason I lived to see my son graduate. She had liver cancer, and it was bad. And she's still alive now, which is against all odds. She was supposed to have, I think, a 3-year span, and it's been many, many years since then.
Yeah.
But it hammered home to me that idea that dentists are oral physicians, or should be, because if we're not, we're doing a grave disservice to our patients. We have specialized knowledge. MDs may have, but don't practice on a daily basis. And it's the same thing to me as, a person who goes and does a weekend course on implants and places an implant once a month versus someone who's doing full mouth restorations all the time, every day. They're going to be so much more familiar, and they're going to see the zebras when the zebras happen. There's an old saying in medical school, when you hear hoofbeats, think horses and not zebras.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to know the zebras are there.
Yeah, I agree. And I think just like you said, the onus falls upon the dentist to at least recognize and raise a flag so that another specialist can collaborate and then treat the patient. I think that is where dentists get caught up. We don't need to be the best at everything. It's impossible to know everything about everything. But I think it's very possible to know when it is a problem and have a network where you can tap into and help the patient. So I agree with your philosophy 100%.
Quick segue. Vision for the future, 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has the equivalent of a much more modernized, less invasive Neuralink, and everyone has their mind jacked in to a large language model and a large reasoning model.
Okay.
What does the world look like?
Is this a utopia or a dystopia, Doc?
That's the question. But I do foresee that happening at some point in our future. Maybe 50 years is far too soon, but imagine having the access to everything you
Everything
ever
that you-
learned.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you can't know everything. We don't have the storage capacity. And because of the neuroplasticity of our brains, the way that we learn, the pathways that we take most often are those that are most easily accessed.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we got rid of that problem,
Mm-hmm.
of course, there's the other problem of how do you filter out everything?
Everything.
I'm already ADD enough.
Sure. So I think yeah, look at the trajectory of human beings, right? For about 10,000 years or 5,000 years, the average lifespan was 30 years, 25 years, right? And then up to about 150 years ago, it became 35 or 40. In the last 100 years, now it's gone up to what, 75, 80?
Only for women.
Okay.
They live longer than we do,
They
but
live,
yes.
yeah. Um, so looking or peering into the future, 50 years, Neuralink, LLMs, I think the life expectancy will increase significantly. I think we will be a multiplanetary species at that point. And I'm a hopeless optimist. I think it will be a utopia. I don't think it's going to be dystopian, where, yes, we live longer, we have more fulfilled lives, we just have better lives. Um, Access to care may not be as much of an issue. I think access to technology at that point will restrict what you can and cannot do with your life.
I love your vision. I like to be an optimist, but I'm very much a realist.
Sure.
I think cost segregation is going to play a role,
Mhm.
and that we will initially, at the least, have a massive segregation based upon those who can afford the technologies and those who
Sure.
can't. And that will translate into money,
Mhm.
wealth, and power.
Mhm.
And I can very much see the dystopian road,
Mhm.
but I'm hopeful enough to see the utopia as well.
Yeah. And you said it perfectly correctly. There is always a possibility of that happening. And that's what I meant by access to that technology. Because let's say that segregation starts to happen. I hope there are enough revolutionaries or rebels who can start a company to democratize said technology to make it available to the masses.
I look forward to that.
You and I will do it. Let's do it.
There we go.
Let's form a pact right now.
So, when did you realize that you wanted to expand beyond dentistry, beyond clinical dentistry, and more into embracing business ownership and these multiple ventures you've got?
I think as a child, I was an entrepreneur. I think that is how my brain was wired. And I'll tell you some stories when I was a kid. Like this was third grade. In India, um, starting from I think fourth grade, we had to use fountain pens to write. We couldn't use pencils anymore. Um, and back then, fountain pens, you had the ink pot, you had the pen, you would like fill it up and then you would write, right? And then there were some fountain pens where the fillable thing wasn't there, it was a cartridge. But because it's India, you need to reuse it. How do you reuse the cartridge? So we had,
Pull a vacuum on it.
right? Uh, so I made a business out of selling syringes and needles to fill ink in those cartridges. And the barter was I used to collect stamps. So I'm like, okay, go find these stamps from other people. I'll sell you a syringe to refill your pens for stamps.
I love it.
So I think I had that hustle mentality um, as a kid of like 7 years of age, and it just kept on going.
So my son got into trouble at school.
Okay.
Um, this is one of those, you don't have kids.
I don't.
There are these moments of great pride coupled with great shame and embarrassment. And so I got a call from the school, and they wanted to inform me that they had just shut down Valen's business.
Oh,
So Valen, I believe he was in the third grade.
okay.
He got a book on origami.
Okay.
And he made some origami, and his kids at school saw it, and they were like, "Oh, wow, this is so cool. We want to do it." And he said, "Well, how much would you pay me for it?" So it was like quarter or 50 cents or whatever. And, um, and he said, well, if I teach you to make them, every five that you make, I get to keep four and you keep one.
There's some
And
intense royalties.
so, so he sold the four
Okay.
and the kids were working for free effectively. And so the school told me he had started a slavery ring.
A sweatshop.
But I have great hopes for him. He's got a new business right now. He just started a laser engraving business. So
Oh, beautiful.
I worried because I like to tell people I grew up destitute, which we've discussed is different in the United States and India.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how to raise poor kids,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know how to raise wealthy kids. And I'm afraid I have given them too many choices and advantages because for me, I fight for choices. And it's always been part of who I am and part of my entrepreneurial nature is one of the reasons I got into entrepreneurship is because it gave me more choices.
Yeah.
And the more choices you have, the more control you have over your life. And I think that I worried for a long time that I had done both of my children a grave misservice in giving them so much.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like a little bright light.
Yeah.
So, maybe.
I'll take those lessons from you. Yeah. But like kids don't come with a manual, you got to
They
figure
don't.
this out.
And every single one of them is different.
Different, yeah.
So looking back with that in mind or with that as a starting point, what advice would you give your younger self just starting out? And how far back would that be?
The one advice that I would give myself is buy Tesla stock and just hold it and don't sell it.
I think I've told you this story before. Whenever when I was in middle school, Google launched their IPO.
Okay.
And I was a big user of Metacrawler back then, which was, it was a fantastic search engine. And I saw what Google was doing. And I told my mom and dad, I said, Mom, Dad, find $1,000 and put it into this stock right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they just kind of laughed it off.
Mm.
My mom mentioned it a couple of weeks ago.
Oh,
She was
really?
like, I should have done what you told me.
Yeah.
But
But not to make light of your question, I think if the question's purpose is go tell your younger self something that your younger self would change,
you
and
wouldn't
not,
change anything.
I wouldn't change anything.
I love that answer.
Yeah. So will I give my younger self some advice? For sure. But all of those advice points would be so that you don't change anything, but you learn faster and you look inside of you to help you grow.
There's only one piece of advice I'd go back and give myself.
Mhm.
And I would do it as young as possible.
Mhm.
When someone tells you who they are, believe them.
Okay. What's the backstory to that, Doc?
I've done business with people before that in their interactions with other people,
Yeah.
or I've had relationships with people before that in their interactions with other people have showed their true colors.
Yeah.
And there's an old saying, just because if someone's an asshole to everyone else but you, they're still an asshole.
Yeah.
And that's where that advice comes from.
Okay.
So
Nice.
if you guys haven't learned that yet, if you're really young and you're watching this, I'm so sorry for cursing on air. I'll mark that in the description. But when someone shows you or tells you who they are, believe them.
Solid piece of advice.
So let's talk a little bit about your professional growth and your expertise.
Mhm.
So what is an area of dentistry? I'm going to ask you to be immodest. What is an area of dentistry you truly feel like you've mastered that may have been overlooked by others?
So I think what dentists overlook and what I think I'm really good at is when a patient comes in with a problem, you hear the patient, you understand their problem to its core, you formulate solutions, and then you present it in a way the patient understands it, and then give them their choices in an unbiased way, right? So that entire process of understanding a patient, a problem, and presenting it to them so that they understand it, not the way you would understand, but they get it, is a skill set that has gotten me to the stage where I am. Because new patient consults, when they come in, the only reason why they're not doing treatment in my office is because financially they're not ready for it. But outside of that, there is no other question. And I think all dentists should focus on that point.
I think the danger is that we live on a pendulum swing, most of us. And when we get out of dental school, we speak dentalese
Mm-hmm.
and we have to learn to speak English again.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us never do.
Yep.
And at a certain point, we become so accustomed to speaking common that we forget to explain enough. I think people swing back and forth between the two. There really is a true skill in communication, and I think it's so invaluable in dentistry, and it's such a neglected skill.
Extremely important. Some patients need the minutiae of everything.
You're engineers.
Some patients do not want anything. They just need a binary choice,
Just tell me what to do.
right? And it is your responsibility to understand and read that patient and individual and give them what they need.
You know what a really great way of doing that is? Ask them. It's
True.
amazing.
Yeah.
We spend so much time in our efforts to communicate trying to pick up on signs and symptoms of personality, communication style, habits,
Mm-hmm.
that oftentimes we just forget we've got the best source of information in the world in front of us.
Yeah.
One of my dental professors told me something that I carry with me to this day. If you want to know the diagnosis, ask the patient, they'll tell you.
They'll give you all and every piece of information you need.
100%.
And to that point, I'm going to extrapolate on that. Over a period of time, I've learned to formulate a set of questions. So sometimes the patient will start off and they'll kind of digress. And then with those set of questions, you're able to get those answers out.
And you can reel them back in.
Yep. Bring them back in. I'm looking for this. Give me this answer. So yes, you're correct. Patients are going to tell you that, but you'll sometimes have to get those answers out of them, direct certain questions to get those things out of them.
Absolutely. A lot of times, one of the impediments to that is they've had bad dental experiences. I know
100%.
with my practice, that was a lot of it. I was usually a second or third consult or fourth, fifth even. And they want to feel heard.
Mhm.
And so what I would do is I would just let them talk. And eventually I would say, I dated a girl once, and all she ever wanted to do was tell me about how much she hated her ex-boyfriend when we were on dates. How would you feel about that?
Mhm.
And it's such a non-sequitur question. It would shock the patient into answering.
Mhm.
Oh, that would be terrible. And I'd say, I am really sorry you were treated so poorly. Thank you for sharing that with me. We'll do better.
Mhm. And that's a beautiful way of handling that, Doc. That's amazing.
It
Yeah.
worked. It worked well.
Yeah. Going back to the question, I think as clinicians, we need to learn how to lead with empathy. As business owners, I think we need to learn how to lead with inspiration.
I love that.
Yeah. Um, so these are hard lessons that I learned over the past few years, right? And whenever you lead with empathy, whenever you lead with inspiration, um, you are going to get burned. People are going to take advantage of you. You are going to feel used.
That's their problem, not yours.
Exactly. And here's the thing. I am full of scars. I've been hurt by people. It's okay. That is what life is, right? That doesn't deter me from who I am. In fact, that has shown me lessons and I've become stronger. to a point where now people don't want to hurt me because of who I am. And every individual who's a business owner, every dentist, you will reach that point in your career, in your life, where you'll see a patient walk in and you'll know that this is a red flag. And because of who you are, they will extract themselves out of your life and your practice. Right. And to reach that level of confidence and satisfaction, you need to get hurt, you need to get burnt, and you still need to stick to your ground. Just because someone hurt you doesn't mean that the entire world is out to get you. There are good people.
Well, you said something this morning. We were talking about extreme ownership, but this morning over coffee, and you said, but the corollary to that is that you have to learn to love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
I thought that was really powerful, because you're right. That's a message that needs to go along with
Yeah.
the message that if something goes wrong, it is your fault, and you need to handle it, whether you're the one who made the mistake or not. When you're the boss, it's
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 the buck
you.
stops with me.
That's it.
At the end of the day, I take responsibility for everything. I think part of that philosophical sort of debate in my head arose from sort of a religious debate I was having. So I was in Bangkok for a few days, where it was a culinary and a religious trip that I did because I wanted to learn about Buddhism. And the one differentiating factor in that religion is Buddhism wants you to look inside of you, right? And once you start doing that, you will know and realize that 90% of the problems that are your problems, you are the cause of it, and you are the one who can fix it instantly. It is you who's the problem.
Can.
Yeah. Um, so, coming from that perspective, you need to keep working on yourself. And above all, you need to love yourself and be kind to yourself. Because if you don't do that, everything the world throws at you will take you down.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, for some reason, that reminded me of one of my favorite sayings. So I'm apologizing here. I'm going way off script here. It's not really a script, but
Yeah.
There's an Indian holy man,
Mhm.
teacher, scholar,
Mhm.
and he's Hindu. And someone's asking him some questions about life, and he said, "What's the nature of the world?" Well, he thinks a while, and he says, "The world is balanced on the back of an elephant."
Mhm.
And what's under that? He said, "Well, 4 turtles." I'm probably
Mhm.
screwing
Yeah.
this up, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And the guy says, "Well, what's under that?" And getting irritated, the scholar says, "My friend, it's turtles all the way down."
Right.
So
Yeah.
not super relevant to this conversation, but
But
I thought I would share that because it's always made me smile,
yeah.
because at a certain point, how much do you explain? How much can you explain?
Exactly.
And
Right.
that point has always come up for me. When I heard that, believe it or not, I'm such a dentist. My thought when I heard it was, is there any such thing as informed consent?
Right. True. It's a great point you bring up. Um, I don't think there is. There is so much to know that one sheet of paper is not going to do justice at all.
Here's
Right.
here's admission slip. I need
Yeah.
you to go 4 years to this university, learn everything,
Everything.
come on back,
Right.
and then I'll answer your question.
Right. And the other side of that point is a lot of dentists/people have this grandiose view of who they are. Well, you're not. Just because you went through 4 or 6 or 10 years of medical dental school, I think, yes, you have reached a certain status or caliber in education and life. But at the end of the day, just like you said, we are bags of water with 2 holes. And I'll add to that, you are a speck of dust on a planet that is flung across space at an immense speed.
I think I know, actually. I'm going to say that I know this. industrialization and centralization of civilization and the building of large cities is the cause of ego. And here's why I say that. Have you ever been out camping and laid down and looked at the skies? We don't see the skies. We don't realize how insignificant we are in the universe until you have that moment of epiphany. And it may not be the sole cause, but I do think it's a huge contributing factor.
I can start to see that, yeah. And I'm not saying this to diminish life for you as a person, but at the end of the day, an individual is not as important as they think they are. We are a small part of this huge system, and do the best that you can and be humble about it. Just, you are not that important. I'm sorry.
So talk to me a little bit about balancing the tension between clinical excellence and being a strong business leader. You initiated that conversation a little while ago whenever you said how you lead as a leader versus
as a clinician. So I'll rephrase that a little bit, right? I don't think there is a balance. I think both of those need to exist, period. Some of us may not have the skill set of one or the other. Hence, you'll end up seeing some doctors in administration and business and some doctors as great clinicians, but not good business owners, right? So I think you got to be honest with yourself, be truthful to yourself as to where your skill set is, what you lack, and what you can improve on, and what are the strengths that you have that you can magnify, right? Um, and then based on that, you define your practice. For example, I know I'll suck at being an emergency medicine physician.
And why is that?
In extreme amounts of stresses, sometimes my mind starts to shut down, right? Hence, I think I'm a very good prosthodontist because there is no life-threatening emergencies happening in my chair. I can sit back, look, visualize the entire vision, and walk my way back and build that future for you with time and space around me.
That's interesting because we had this conversation this morning. I didn't realize that about you. We actually fall on opposite ends of the chain on that one.
Exactly.
Because in emergencies, I have ice water. But tedious tasks drive me to distraction. And literally, I'll be doing anything else. But
So that's why. But once again, you got to realize that about yourself. You got to understand who you are. And then, like, I see a lot of people spend 90% of their time working on improving the 10% of faults they have or deficiencies they have. And I think that is counterintuitive.
Absolutely.
Spend 90% of your time in improving your strengths, magnify your strengths. Then for the things that you cannot do or you don't do, hire people to do it for you who are good for you.
Have you ever heard me lecture?
Yes, I have.
Okay. I was going to say, are you stealing that? Levers and dials, man. It's
Exactly.
all levers and dials.
So what happens is, once again, like when you're trying to balance these, like you're trying to balance clinical, you're trying to balance business, you go online trying to find answers, right? You'll go onto Facebook and there'll be this guy who says, "Oh, I did the entire networking in my office. It's so easy to do." Then you'll find the second guy who'll be like, "Oh, I do QuickBooks. It is so easy to do." And then you'll find the third guy saying that I do this. It is so easy to do. And then you as a dentist feel pressured. Am I supposed to be living to these standards? No, you cannot be good at everything. It is just not possible.
We fail to see that those were three separate dentists, not one dentist with all those skill sets. And we compare ourselves to this ideal that doesn't actually exist.
Yeah. So please go easy on yourself, love yourself, figure out what are the things you're good at, and the others, just find people to do it. It is okay.
So are there any habits or routines that have been critical in your personal and professional growth, or either?
Habits or routines? I think It's not on a micro level that I have certain habits every day that I do. I think it's on a more larger monthly, yearly level that, hey, every year, every month, I know I want to improve on X, Y, and Z. And that then on a daily basis becomes an incremental growth. So I think that is the mindset that I have that I apply to every single thing, be it personal relationships, be it clinical, be it business, be it whatever. Every day is going to be incremental growth. Every day, try and push that 0.1%. And if you do that consistently throughout the entire year, you'll be in a much better and a further position than you were when you started off with.
I agree. There's actually something like that I recommend whenever I'm coaching dentists. We'll talk about it later. I think you'll like it. But to take a step back slightly, first of all, I'm going to have you talk a little bit about your practices. Are you okay with sharing some numbers and things?
Sure.
Okay, so I want people to understand that they should listen to you.
Okay.
So talk to us about your practice. Talk to us about the numbers.
Sure. So, the practice that I have, it's a regular GP practice when I bought it. There were two doctors, about a day and a half hygiene every week. So 1.5 hygienists every day. Um, and the practice was doing about 1.2, 1.1 in collections. Okay. So two doctors, 1.5 hygienists. Um, Fast forward today, I am a GP, quote unquote, but I say I'm a restorative dentist. I only do restorative dentistry. I do not do endo, I do not do surgery. I'll do very simple and basic aligners, but I won't do ortho. Most pedo I send out. So I'm strictly a restorative dentist. We have about 2 days of hygiene a week, pushing on to 2.5 now. Okay. I have a surgeon who comes into my practice who does all of my surgeries. All perio I refer out. With this setup, and I work about 34 to 36 hours a week. In collections, touchwood, this year we'll probably do 2.5. Right? And once again, I'm not fee for service. I participate in all private insurances.
Right. And that is a huge differentiator. So when you're talking to other dentists, what is one of the most common mistakes you see in the way that they think about their practices if they want to run them as a business?
I think the biggest mistake dentists do is they listen to the wrong advice or the wrong mentor. Because dentistry, or in general healthcare, as a business has to be run very differently than any other business.
Oh, I disagree with that, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. And I think I know what you're saying. From an operational perspective, it is the same as any business.
Right.
Right. So operationally,
but it is high touch business.
agreed. I think the thing that differentiates dentistry as a business from anything else is you have to put patient care first. The interest of the patient comes first, irrespective of everything else. Because of that, you may take minor losses, but it's okay, right? How much does that move the needle in terms of numbers? It is a rounding error. But the philosophy can really help you scale or descale the business. Let me give you an example, right? In my office, it is standard policy 2 years, any work that I do, I'll redo at no charge, no questions asked. Right? Sounds like, oh my God, what is going on?
Oh, we did the same thing,
Yeah.
exactly the same thing. And then we had a sliding scale based upon 2 to 5 years, and they would pay a percentage of it to remake after that.
Exactly. Now, how many times have I redone my own work in terms of dollars and cents value? It is a rounding error. But that philosophy of how the business is run, the way it translates, builds so much more trust into the patient and builds so much more accountability within me and everyone else who practices. And that really changes the idea of the business. So I think instead of focusing on those small little things, fundamentally look at what is the vision, pass every decision through that filter, and then do business. So I think that is where it is fundamentally different. But to your point, at the end of the day, it is a business, and those operational things are exactly the same. You need to know your numbers. You need to do this. You need to do that. That doesn't change.
I find that the biggest, and people will probably get sick of hearing me say this because it's like beating a dead horse, but I find that the biggest problem that dentists face, the biggest mistakes they make, is they track the wrong things, or they track so many things that they end up in this just analysis paralysis. In the final analysis, the only number that's important at all is net.
Mm-hmm.
What is your revenue? And that is the only thing that matters. Every other statistic, every other KPI simply serves that KPI. And if that KPI is not where you want it, then you dig into the other KPI and say, okay, which one of these things? Is it my overhead? Is it the number of patient visits? Is it my transaction per visit?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that is making us fail to hit the goal? And the
Mm-hmm.
goal is revenue,
Mm-hmm.
because you're running a business.
Agreed.
And people don't like hearing that. Remember earlier I said, call it a business, because it is. The truth is, it's something I used to tell my team when they would talk about prices. Oh, Miss Jones can't afford this. Can we give it to her? And I'd say, we have this budget for charity dentistry every year. Do you guys want to do that? And if so, we'll take it off the budget. But the reason we have that budget is because I could do free dentistry for everyone who came in the door for about 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that period, we would go bankrupt, and none of you would have lives. None of you would have jobs. None of you would have the ability to feed your families,
Mm-hmm.
and it would impact your lives. And that's the truth of the matter.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been a big fan of the phrase "doing well by doing good."
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. And once again, some fundamental principles of just life like this is laid out in different religions, different philosophies, different principles that you follow. Like 10% of your income, give it to charity. Okay, the way I do it is just like you. There is a certain amount of free dentistry that I will do, right? I don't give them.
What's your number?
It's 75,000.
Mine was between 100 and 175, depending on the year.
Yeah. So I think people or dentists as business owners should look at, yes, healthcare is important, but also to give back in any form that they can. Could be volunteer days someplace else. Don't do free dentistry. Just volunteer a few days at a local shelter or a local clinic who can use your services. And I think that brings about a certain amount of humility and a realization of what you have, and the place where you're at is a very good place to be.
No, I love that.
I talked to some younger dentists and like, hey, what advice would you give them? Or I always say, travel outside the country. And going in a all-inclusive vacation to Cancun is not traveling outside the country. When I say travel outside, meaning go visit other countries, go visit Asia, go visit Latin America, go visit Europe, see how people actually live. And then when you come back, you'll be very grateful for where you are right now.
Absolutely. So you mentioned earlier that the reason you like prosthodontics as opposed to surgery is because, your mind begins to blank or freeze up. How do you approach decision-making in a high-pressure environment?
Great question. That is one of my weaknesses, where if it's extremely high pressure, I am a person who needs to take in all the information, digest it, sit on it, and then I come up with advice or things, right? And over time, I've learned how to at least carry the situation until the actual decision is due. Um, the way I deal with it is, like you say and like you preach, hire people to do it. So I have operations manager in my med spa, and I have an operations manager for my lab in my office. And if there is an employee related high tense situation, they handle it all.
So we covered your practice. Let's cover the lab and the med spa.
Okay.
Talk numbers.
Talk numbers. The lab I started as a business about 3 years ago. I think this year in the lab we'll do a revenue. I'm hoping of about $600,000. The med spa,
So it's a baby lab.
it's a baby lab. Um, I'm I'm expecting next year we'll do hopefully $1 million in revenue. Um, and we'll talk a little bit more about scaling and everything when we dive into it. Um, the med spa this year will be our this year will be our third year full in business, and we'll probably hit close to 600,000 in revenue.
Excellent. So your net income for the three businesses is about what at this point?
As much as you
Very
want,
healthy. I know that.
as much as you want me to know that number, I have no idea. And I'll
That's an indicator right there.
because a lot of this is being invested back into the businesses, right? Scaling up a full blown medical aesthetic practice and a med spa is extremely expensive,
Right.
right? The lab at the year end, we're going to get $100,000 milling machine that's going to be just a beast of a machine to mill metal and titanium all day long, right? So I still live on that same amount of money that I took out of the practice 10 years ago.
I love that philosophy. Anything for overage for us, we try to live on, and this sounds so ridiculous. Like I said, I was brought up poor, but my wife and I tried to live on $200,000 a year, and we did. We've done very well because of it. But everything else above and beyond that was investment in our retirement. You know, which has made a difference, which is great. I mean, I practiced for 8 years clinically before I was able to retire, which for me was
It's amazing.
a dream.
It is a dream for most people.
So do you have a framework whenever you're evaluating whether an opportunity is worth your time? Because we all know, or we should all know, when you say yes to one thing, you have to say no to something else. So what do you use in your evaluation process? I mean, you're running 3 businesses right now, just the ones that we've talked about. So how do you decide where you're going to give your time?
So to clear the record, I actually run 7.
Oh, I know, but we've only talked about 3
We only
so
talked
far.
about 3 that are relevant to this point. I think, and I heard Kevin O'Leary talk about this in one of his podcasts, where he said there is a signal to noise ratio, right? Every day there is noise coming at you. And the only way you can be more productive is not by doing more work, but to actually cut the noise out of your life. That is the single most important thing that I've done over the last 2 years. Anything that I deem noise in my life is immediately cut out. I don't care what it is. I don't care if I'm bruising egos or relationships. If this human being brings negative energy, sucks my time, is noise, I take it out. All of a sudden, I have more mind space and more time. Early this year, I deleted all social media apps from my phone because I live in DC area, right? I live in Alexandria. It is a highly political area. Things were charged, right? And sorry to say, both parties are stupid at this point, right? But people were engaging in discussion. Social media was flooded with things. And I'm like, this is noise. It doesn't matter in my life. I have a vision that I'm following. I have to work on it. This is bringing just a time drain on me. that is not going to help me achieve my vision.
Well, and it's nothing you can use or move.
Exactly. I'm not a Jeff Bezos or a Steve Jobs or Tim Cook who needs to be in DC to understand political scenarios because it affects my multi-billion dollar. No, we are not. I am a small guy who's building a large vision. Focus on that. Eliminate the noise. All of a sudden, now you have so much time that you're like, oh my God, I can handle all of this. Right? Now, how do I juggle so many things at the same time? Right. Um, on an everyday basis, first priority is put out the fires because there will always be fires all the way around. Right. So that is always first priority. Whatever is immediate and urgent needs to be done will be done. Every day for at least an hour, you work on the long term vision stuff. Whatever is the 10, 15, 20-year goal, and whatever you need to do to push that boat towards that goal.
I love that you used boat.
It is a boat.
It is. And we're going to get into you remember earlier I said I have something I teach that you'll like. I was going to get into it off the air. I'll get into it after you're done with this answer because I think you'll like it.
Okay. So yeah, for an hour, you focus on that end vision goal, right? And every day you got to do this. You got to focus on improving yourself as a human being. Forget all the businesses, forget everything else. You got to work on yourself as a human being, right? And over the last few years, I've started to go through that journey where I've learned about business, about work culture, about people, about burnout. Now I'm actually reading a book called Scattered Minds, which is about ADD. So it's once again
No, not you.
right. So it's an insight into me, right? So what will happen is every day you may not see the needle move. Every day you may not see the vision being built because it's building one brick every day. But after a year, when you look back, you've built a whole room. You've become a completely different person. You've grown to this individual who you didn't know before a year. And guess what? You're still at the base of the mountain. You still have to go up. So, immediate things that need to be done first, visionary things, and then work on yourself. And at the end of the day, you only have so many hours. You can only do so many things. It is okay. Love yourself, go rest. There are outlier human beings out there, right? Like Elon Musk, classic. Kevin O'Leary spoke about it. The guy has 100% signal and zero noise. And I read his biography by Walter Isaacson. It gives you an interesting insight into the mind of that individual. The guy can work, switch on, switch off 25 hours a day, and he is okay with it and he's normal. I am not that guy. I will never be that individual.
He's also, and regardless of what you think of Elon Musk, I think he's fantastic. He's also unusual in that he knows and recognizes his own genius,
Yes.
but does not ever stop listening to other people. I saw an interview. It was just a YouTuber, and the guy's interviewing him about something with Starship or...
I saw that whole walkthrough in
yes,
the Starbase.
and the guy says something, and he goes, I hadn't thought of it.
Yeah.
We're going to do that.
Yes, I remember exactly what you're saying because I saw that video too.
That impressed me more than
Yes.
anything else I've ever seen with him.
Yes.
Because it instantly you could see his eyes going back and forth. You could see his mind working. He was like, could this work? Yeah, it could work. How would it work? It would work like this, this, and this. Why haven't we done this? Well, don't worry about why we haven't done it. Let's get it done now. And like you could see those thoughts go across his face because he's not really great whenever it comes to controlling his facial expressions. But that gave me a lot of respect for him.
Yeah. So yeah, I think everyone can build something good. I think it's and I'm speaking this to dentists who are graduating now or who are early in their career. You have the capability of building the life that you want, right? Believe in yourself and start building towards it one brick at a time, and you'll get there.
The biggest poison to building the life that you want is not thinking about what you want, but looking around at what others have.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to look at your practice and look around. And we had this discussion earlier this morning. I've been relatively successful. There are a lot of people who've been way more successful than me. And it would be easy to say, oh, I've got to keep pushing because I'm not where they are now yet. But that's dangerous, because then you never build what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And what you want is what you set out to build. Now, if you're building what you want, or you have an idea of what you want, and you look around and you say, has anyone else done this? Oh, that guy has. I'm going to ask him how.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's healthy.
That is healthy. Agreed.
But when you look around and you say, these other people have built these things and I'm really impressed with it, that's what I should build too. If that's not your calling, that's poison to your soul.
Agreed. And I'll give you a personal example that I realized the last time I met you in person, the conference in North Carolina.
Really?
Okay. So Dr. Travis Campbell was lecturing over there too.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always had this battle, this tug of war in my mind of, I should be a fee-for-service practice, right? Why am I not a fee-for-service practice? I have a beautiful skill set, clinical, I have the lab, I'm a prosthodontist, I'm a specialist in my area. I see younger prosthodontists come in a fee-for-service practice, they're practicing that model. Like, it used to drive me up the wall, right? And Travis said something beautiful, and that like instantly relieved all the pressure. He said a fee-for-service practice has a specialty towards hospitality. An insurance-based practice has a specialty towards efficiency. And it is how your brain thinks.
Right.
And that lit a floodlight in my head. I'm like, I'm only thinking of efficiency. That is how I'm built. That is what I think every single time. And that is what helped me finally, after 10 years of practicing, accept and love who I am.
Absolutely. There's a reason, and because you've seen us both lecture together, there's a reason why we lecture together.
Exactly.
Our messages are complementary.
Yes.
And I've learned a lot from Travis over the years. Whether he'll admit it or not, he's learned a lot from me. I'm actually the reason he places implants.
Oh, nice.
And I learned a lot about thinking about efficiency from him, and I brought efficiency into my practice. It was already something I was doing, but he was better at it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
All right. So,
before that, one more small little thing. I think we touched upon it indirectly.
All right.
But the direct statement is, you are competing with your own self.
You should be.
You are measuring your success as a measure of who you were, not as a measure of who other people are around you. And once you get into that mindset, a lot of people say it, but it's very hard to practice. It's very hard to cut that noise and say, you know what, great, he has that car, I don't, it's fine, let it be. I need to better myself and I am my own measure. And just like you said, if someone does something better than you, go learn from them, completely different and healthy. But always compare yourself to yourself.
And what you learn may not work for you.
Agreed.
Be honest about that. There's before I get into the boat thing.
The boat thing. I was thinking about that.
Before that, there is a saying. My wife and I own a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym. Mm-hmm. And there's a saying in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think it's one of the healthiest things I've ever learned.
Okay.
On the mats, there are only two types of people. Winners and learners.
I love it.
Isn't that cool?
I love it.
I like that.
And just because you won doesn't mean that you didn't learn.
Learner. Yep. Mm-hmm. So whenever I coach a dentist, and I don't charge people to coach them because I feel like it's
sign me up, doc.
Well, anytime. I'm not saying that what I have done will help you, but if it does, that's great. Because like I said, when you go and when you learn from the quote expert or someone who's done what you want to do or you think you want to do, their way might not jive with you. It may not resonate. But Edison said, he didn't learn how to invent a light bulb. He learned 750 ways not to, right? So what I do is I'll tell him, like, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to sit down and I want you to write out on the top of a piece of paper, my perfect day. And then I want you to segregate yourself. I want you to just forget that you're a dentist, forget everything. I want you to think of yourself as a person. I want you to think of yourself as a family person. What is your personal life like from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep? And I want you to write that down. Okay, when you're done with that, I want you to put back on your doctor hat. And I want you to think clinically in your practice from the moment you arrive at your office to the moment that you leave. What is your day like? Just your absolute perfect day. Nothing wrong. Absolutely perfect. Now I want you to take that hat off and I want you to put on your CEO hat, your business owner hat. And I want you to think as an entrepreneur from the moment you get to your practice to the moment you go to bed at night, because as we know, it doesn't stop when you leave the office. What is your day like? And there's an important distinction there in that those things, other than your personal life, don't start until you arrive at the office, because they shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And once you do that, I want you to make a copy of it. And I want you to post it on your wall in your office. The original, I want you to put it in an envelope. And I want you to stick it underneath your desk. I want you to tape it there. And I want you to open it in 1 year.
I'm going to say it was going to be a year.
Yeah, 1, 3, and 5.
Mm-hmm.
And so they ask me why. I say, there's a simple reason. It is possible to sail to Florence, Italy from the Gulf of Mexico. You sit down, you take your charts out, you look at what the prevailing winds are going to be, you look at what the currents are, and you chart your course. But the problem is that every day, because of wind and waves, your boat drifts. And it's very important to course correct, because you may not end up in Florence. You may end up in Ireland. And that's just the way that life works. And so by doing this, you hold yourself true to your vision. But even more than that, the next year when you open that letter up, you can say, is this still who I want to be? Is this still my vision? And that was a hugely important lesson in my life whenever it came to practice and life in general. And so it's just one of the things I share.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. Also, I think it's a very difficult task to verbalize the things that you've asked the dentist to verbalize.
But when you write something down, you commit to it.
You commit to it. I agree. So I think I'm going to do that exercise, actually.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, see there, I coached you already.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have about 30 minutes left on this podcast. We can go a little bit long. I want to talk a little bit about your lab venture, and I want to talk about Aesthetics Med Spa from a different direction. So you've kind of told us what you've built for yourself, but part of your vision is to spread this model when you realized it's okay to be PPO. I know that you thought to yourself, you can be successful in PPO and you can make good money, but there's kind of a set of rules. There's a way that you have to differentiate yourself to get to every checkpoint that you had set for yourself. And that was the med spa and that was the dental lab, because you're controlling both the input and the output, right? I know there's a lot of dentists out there who would love to do that. And I know that you're thinking about this model as you're perfecting it, and you've thought about doing maybe a franchise or something like that.
That's correct, yes.
So I'm going to start asking you some questions about that part of things.
Okay.
And if you guys are interested in replicating this model, then we'll talk about how you can reach out to him and, kind of share what your vision is. I've already asked you all the questions that I wanted to ask you about the med spa. Haven't asked about the dental lab as much. So we'll cover the med spa first. Okay. So talk to me about what it is you plan aside from the creation of the med spa. What is it you plan to share with people what is it you plan to provide to them if they want to replicate this model? Yeah. And we're going to take a break. Okay. And we took a sharp break there. We're going to get back into it. So, talk to me a little bit about the Aesthetics Med Spa.
Great. So the entire conversation about the med spa, I'm going to divide it into different segments and fragments.
Okay.
Okay. The first segment is going to be my journey. Okay. Like we discussed prior, it is an incremental journey. I've been doing this for well over 3 years now. And every time we've built on a previous topic, right? So the disclaimer over here is don't feel daunted. Also, this is not where everyone should achieve to be at if it is not your cup of tea, right? So, with that, like I said, I'll describe my full journey, where we are at, our operations, what we do, etc., etc. The second segment is going to be what I hope dentists can do with what I have done in their own practices. My vision for other dentists. Because I believe that the more dentists do this, the more patients will get used to seeing that at dental practices, and then it becomes the norm.
It'll change the expectation.
It'll change the expectation. Like, why am I going for this procedure at my dentist? I should go to a derm. Well, no, not really. You can go to your dentist also, right? So that is where my second thing comes from. And then the third segment is going to be where my company can specifically and directly help you achieve your dream on this scale. Is it, hey, I just need a little bit, one device, or I need to build the same spa that you're building, right? So I'll divide it into those kind of segments.
Okay.
Okay. So let's start off with my journey. I started off once again sitting in my office wondering, I'm doing PPO dentistry, I'm doing crowns for $1,000. It's backbreaking. How long can I do this? How much time do I have in me that I can keep doing these procedures? And what can I do where it's not as taxing on my body and I don't have to deal with insurances? It's all fee for service. And it is also within my field of practice, right? So I stumbled upon a gentleman who walked into my office trying to sell me an aesthetic device. And I was like, wait, typically a derm has this. Why did he step into my office? And that is what started the entire thought process in my head. So, like at that time, I took the information. I said, I think there is an application to this in dentistry. I'm not convinced. I need to sit on this. I'll decide, and then we'll go from there. So, I sat on the idea for a good year.
So, what was the device?
So, the device was a fractional plasma. Basically, it ablades your skin. Uh, Superficial dead layer of the skin is ablated out, a little bit more is ablated out, the skin heals, and now because it's healed, there is better collagen, the skin is tighter, so the fine lines and wrinkles go away. So that is what it did. So technically, like, we design smiles, we make people smile all day long. Why do we stop at the teeth? Why don't we look at the whole face? Like, it's just so obvious. Dentists are trained to do this. We have the knowledge to do this. Who's better at head and neck anatomy than a dentist, right? And once again, I digress a little bit. On a side note, I lecture for these aesthetic companies now, right? So I'm head to head with derms, with emergency medicine physicians on stage. Like, we are talking about this all the time. And I've had other practitioners ask me, how do you block this facial nerve here? How do you block this over here? Right? And
Because
that
they don't learn that.
they don't learn that. And even if they do, it's the same thing that you said. We do this 100 times a week. We are much better at doing this than anyone else. So why not utilize all of our knowledge and push the boundaries a little bit more of dentistry so that we can deliver a bigger, better result for our patient? Simple as that, right? So my thought process was, okay, this falls in my purview of knowledge. I'm not going to talk scope of practice because that is defined by different states as different things. We'll get into that later, right? But this falls within my knowledge base. I know facial anatomy, I know skin, I know aesthetics, I deal with it all the time. So I think this is a great thing for me to get into to give my patient a better result. Now, just like the way you approach things, I approach things the same way. I take a full deep dive into everything that is possible and that can be done. I don't want the patient to come into my office and I offer just a half solution to a full problem. It's like, oh, I only do composites, I don't do crowns. Right? No, you got to offer the whole gamut of treatment. So I looked into different lasers that are used for the face that do different things. We looked at a few other technologies, merged a little bit with true scope of practice where we dialed it down. And I said, okay, this is something that any dentist should be comfortable doing, provided they have the knowledge of doing that. Okay. And that is what sparked my med spa journey. So I did take a deeper dive as the first dive uh, than most dentists would. But because I knew my vision was not just X, my vision was the Mayo Clinic of Dentistry, the full experience. I said, this is just the first step. I am going to go much farther, but the first step has to be significant enough where I can offer more holistic treatments to the patient.
Very differentiating.
Yes. So that is where we started. In Virginia, just recently, the law passed that we could start doing Botox for cosmetic purposes. Before that, it was only for functional.
Yep, orgnathic treatment plans.
Um, we cannot still do fillers, right? So every state is very different, right? But in my med spa, I said I want the full gamut of treatments that can be offered, right? So we built everything out. So we built out certain devices being the fractional plasma, and the laser machine is um, a multi-platform laser. So it does many different things. It has 3 lasers built into it, so you can do multiple things. We started with um, Botox and fillers. With that, then we started adding bit by bit every few months.
So how did you do the fillers whenever you're up against not being able to do them? You had to bring in another provider.
I have to bring other providers. So my med spa has an esthetician and I have a PA, a physician's assistant. So that is how all of those services are provided. Can a dentist do it? Sure. Once again, depending on state, right? Um, but I didn't want impediments to providing care for a patient when something is needed. So let's say there is a small little deficiency on one side and we're looking at symmetry of the face and the patient like this bothers me. Great, we can do fillers. I'm going to refer you to someone. No, let's just do it over here. So that's why I got the PA in. That's why we can offer all of that, right? Now, once we started with that, now started the journey of the evolution. Like, okay, what is the next problem that I need to solve, right? So there was a whole bunch of IV therapies and IV hydration treatments that we got on board next because that time this was like circa 2022. There was kind of a little bit in the social media. We are doing this for wellness. Great. So now from aesthetics, the focus has moved a little bit more towards wellness, right? It's not just aesthetics; it's about longevity. So let's start with that. So IV was the next thing that we got in. So we have our own custom formulations that we get from a 503 um, pharmaceutical manufacturer, right? So they compound it to us. It's a pharmacy, sorry. So they compound it for us and they send it to us. The next step then was okay, we are doing the treatments, but what does the patient do when they go back home for their care? It's the same thing as dentistry, right? Like we want them to brush their teeth. They'll ask you, what brush do I use? What toothpaste do I use? Same thing happened with aesthetics. We said, okay, start using sunscreen, start using an exfoliant, start using a cleanser. They're like, but which one? Then that's the time when, once again, me and my team took a deep dive into products. And then come to find out, 99% of products on the shelf are just willy nilly manufactured with no oversight because it is a cosmetic. It is not a medical prescription. Okay. That is when we started the journey of making our custom, private labeled, medical grade product line. So currently we have about 30 products in our product line. They're all manufactured in FDA regulated facilities. They're all manufactured with medical grade ingredients, which means that the ingredients are pure and a much higher concentration than over the counter, which also means they're technically not over the counter, right? And we have these custom formulations that pair with treatments. It's like, oh, if your teeth are sensitive, you use an anti sensitive toothpaste. If you're high caries prone, use a high fluoride toothpaste, right? So, similarly, we have our product line for different things, right? So, from these, we went into product line. From product line, the next step was okay, let's get into muscle tone because now we were dealing with skin
I was going to ask if you've thought about adding a gym or a fitness center onto the spa.
on the spa. So I did partner with a personal trainer for our weight loss program, which kind of came about with this whole thing that, okay, now from just the neck above, we are going to expand our view and go further into the body, right? So we made a partnership with a trainer and we started offering GLP-1s. With that GLP-1s, we expanded a little bit more into peptide therapy. So drug induced weight loss, wellness. We are on an offshoot of looking into hormone replacement that hasn't come up 100% yet. It's still in the works, but that is something that is slated out for the future.
And you're actually, we had this discussion earlier this morning. You're actually one of your own customers.
Exactly. I am one of my own
You
customers.
talk to them a little bit about that journey too.
Sure. Let's talk about that journey after I explain the scope.
Okay.
If that's okay by you?
No, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So weight loss came in, hormone replacement came in. From there, we said, okay, we need to get into muscle tone devices. So we got into devices by a company called BTL.
Mhm.
They have a device called the M Face, which essentially helps tone facial muscles, almost gives you a non-surgical
Is
facelift.
it EMG?
It is high fes and sort of an EMG in combination, and it's RF, so it's heat and high fes. Um, that device now recently got FDA approval even for TMD, and it's probably, hopefully, soon going to get approval for sleep apnea, right? So now you're dealing with functional as well as aesthetics in that same thing. The latest device that we acquired is body contouring and shaping, where now we are toning muscles around the belly, around the love handles, around the butt. And it also has a functional aspect to it, a wellness aspect to it, where if there are joint issues, we can focus on those things too, right? So we started off with a few devices, just aesthetics, moved a little bit more into products, refocused into wellness, refocused into body shaping and contouring, right? So that is the entire scope of where we've ended up building our med spa. So now it's not just neck above for us, it is the entire body and a body as a whole for us. We do have things slated out for the future. We want to build out our full um, hormone replacement therapy, HRT module, TRT module. We want to get into surgical body contouring. And by that, I mean facial as well as body. We do have a facial cosmetic surgeon who will come in and do facelifts. Um, but we are going to go a step further, right? Where it is the entire gamut of not just a simple med spa at this point, but this is a true medical aesthetic practice.
So you're looking at anesthesiologists, you're looking at endocrinologists,
Everything will start to plug in slowly one at a time as we have the need for it. And once again, the basic lens through which every decision passes through is the same. And that is the motto of my company, the logo that we go for is building trust in healthcare. That is the slogan that we have in our company. Every decision that is done has to do it. Does this build trust in the patient? Does it build trust back in healthcare? Right. So all our med spa products are scientific. They are truly medical in nature. We are not endorsing, oh, you can do oil pulling and this is what will happen. Oh, this is a new head massage technique with this special snake oil and it'll grow hair. No. Every procedure, every treatment has a medical basis to it, is steeped in deep research, and has appropriate FDA approvals for it. Right. So that is where we ended up from our first step to today. Now, while I'm building this out, the companies that sell these devices see that I'm building this out and they're like, oh, a dentist is doing this. This is amazing. More dentists should do this, which is the same goal. So I started helping these companies help other dentists do this. Right. The philosophy is the more people do this, the easier it gets. Um, and I found that all dentists had the same question. Operationally, what are we doing? How are we doing this? What are we making this work? How are we making this work? What is the first step? How should I start? That is what inspired us last year to start our licensing program, where all of this is packaged in a product that you, as a dentist, I can help start the entire process. All the way from just a small little addition to my income. I just want an extra $150,000. All the way up to I want to build a full med spa and we can come in and help you do each and every single thing about it. It's a full turnkey solution. And it is not a franchise, it is a licensing program. And I'll dive more into that a little bit later. Right. So that's kind of like our journey was in the med spa of what we've done, clinical and now consulting. Okay. So let's go back to the question. I'm myself a patient in my med spa. Um, there is a light side to it where if they want to try something new, my body and my face is always donated.
You are the guinea pig.
I'm being donated to science, and there have been some treatments that have worked really well in our mesotherapy thing. So that's microneedling. So I'm glad that I did. But the more serious side to this is about 18 months ago, I went for my physical. They did blood work, and I was diabetic. I've had familial history of diabetes, both sides, both sides of parents, all the way up 3 generations. Almost all of my uncles and aunts have some sort of diabetes. So I knew in the back of my mind that at some point I'll have to tackle this. But now it was sitting in front of me. The time was now. So I said, okay, we need to look at this very closely. That is when I started my own journey with GLP-1s. Like I said, about 3 or 4 years ago, I was in the deepest and darkest of spaces. About 2 years ago, most of that had gone by, but what I subjected my body to was still within my body. I had to deal with that. And this was one of them. I had to face my demons. So I'm like, okay, once again, realizing what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are, I don't have the strength to get into that discipline of working out regularly, of nutrition and everything immediately at the same time. I need a push. I need help. I need to see a little bit of improvement that inspires me to go down that journey. And that is what the GLP-1 did for me. It gave me a push. It gave me a boost, right? That is when I saw hope and I'm like, yes, great. I've lost 10 pounds. This is amazing. I fixed my diet, right? Now I eat very clean. I try and eat very clean. Forgive the candy. You asked me.
I'm an evil tempter.
But the almond Snickers was good. I'll give you that. But anyways, so I cleaned up my diet, right? So that was step one for me. And for me, that was a big win because my eating habits before that were completely uncontrolled, right? Now, my personal goal for the future, the next 2 years is going to be to get into muscle and physical shape by exercising and working out. Right. About a month ago, uh, we did the blood work again, and no more diabetes. Right.
That's fantastic.
5.3. Goal is to reach 5, maybe
You're
even
beating me. I'm at a 5.4 now.
just barely, just barely. And the goal that my MD has set for me is you need to reach 5, and then hopefully once you start building muscle, and by muscle I mean I don't need to get jacked up to lift 300 pounds, but just get in good shape and tone, you can potentially even push 4.7.
Well, I I know from experience. We've talked about
Yeah.
this off air. I went through a very similar journey, but I'll say the GLP-1s for me were a lifesaver because even with I lived on a ketogenic diet constantly
Mhm.
before becoming diabetic, but overnight I went from prone to diabetes, pre-diabetes, to a 400 blood sugar and losing my vision for a week.
That
So
must be scary.
it was horrifying. I had always thought to myself, as a dentist, no one can take away from me what I know. If I lose my hands, I can always teach because I've got my mind. But it had never occurred to me, what if you lose your sight
Mhm.
and how difficult everything would be then? That's why I wear these guys now. I had perfect vision before, but now I've got, well, less than perfect. But the thing is I was following a diet that I should never have developed diabetes, theoretically. But genetics is a harsh mistress.
It is. It is. Um, and I think I was listening to Huberman Labs, Andrew Huberman, and he did point out that genetics is not everything, but it is also something that you need to be aware of, right? Don't blame everything on genetics,
No, absolutely.
but they do play a role, an important role, and you need to kind of create your environment and lifestyle around it.
Absolutely. It's particularly with diabetes, and we're going to get back into your med spa and how you're helping people with this. But I know that whenever I went to school, and we've discussed that, I was molecular and cellular biologist, so I really studied cell biology. We didn't know until my junior year that fat is an exocrine gland. That's a recent discovery. Think about that.
It does store hormones.
Well, it releases hormones.
It releases hormones. Yeah.
Your peptin and ghrelin cycles are entirely
Yeah.
dependent on it. Well, I mean that in your small
Sure, yeah,
intestines.
yeah.
But the point is, even getting diabetes, you begin to store more fat. Your hormone levels change.
Mm-hmm.
Corticosteroids change.
Mm-hmm.
It's a positive feedback cycle. And without something to break that, regardless of whether the genetics caused it or just contributed, which is what I think,
Mm-hmm.
you're in a cycle you can't break. You need outside action to
You need
break a
intervention.
positive feedback loop. So
Yeah.
I think it's great that you're helping people with this.
Yeah. And a great point for the next conversation step is on an individual basis, I'm helping patients, but I want to increase my impact.
Absolutely.
How do I do this? And the only way to do this is to help other practitioners do this in their practice, right? And who else to approach best than my own peers? Because I know dentistry, I understand dentists, and I think I can break that barrier with them, saying that this is something you can do in your practice.
Every patient you help is a patient you help, right?
Exactly.
Every dentist you help, every dentist practice has on average, I think, 850 to 1,000 active patients.
Mhm.
You're helping 850 to 1,000 people
patients.
for every dentist that you help.
Yes. And that is what, gives me the warm and fuzzies, which is why I am set out on a mission to help more dentists do the whole medical aesthetic practice in their office. Now, the scope of what they choose to bring on can be very different, which is what we'll have a conversation a little later in the podcast. But start off with something small or build something big, whatever is your vision. you can do this and we can help you do this. We figured this out, the legalities, the insurances, state rules, what you can do, what you cannot do, the notes, what EHR to use, all of that has been figured out and it can be done. The more dentists do this, the more commonplace it becomes. I'll tell you the biggest issue that I faced in the first year. Patients would come in and they're like, well, I'm here for my cleaning. Why are you doing all of this? Right. And once again, who's to blame for that? It is me. Because I trained my patient to think that that is all what I do. Right. Now, 3 years later, I have patients asking me, oh, doc, I see that facelift thing. Like, I'm a little interested. Can you tell me more? Oh, I see that you're doing hair regeneration. My son is losing a lot of hair. He's young. He has a complex. Can you help him out with that? You know? So now, after a certain point of time, my patients are comfortable having those discussions. I'm comfortable having those discussions myself. It took me 2 years. I started teaching this way before, but I wasn't listening to my own advice. And after 2 years, now even I'm comfortable approaching a patient saying that, hey, you have some sun damage on your face. I see some melasma on your face. I think we can help you with this. Or, hey, let's talk about incontinence. We can help you with that.
From one end to the other.
Other end. Bags of water with 2 holes. I love that.
Absolutely.
So that's why I want more dentists to do this, because we can do this and we are in the best place to do this. Our patients come to us twice a year, more than a regular general internal medicine doctor. We see our patients more often. Our patients are more loyal to us. You already built that trust network around. You are in a much better position to take care of a lot of needs. Now, I'm not saying you need to diagnose crazy things and take responsibility for a lot of medical things, but there are so many more things that you can do. And let's say you do choose to push the boundaries, you can hire other medical practitioners in your practice. I have a PA, I've had an NP, I have an esthetician. They can help you get all of these things in place in your practice.
Just having that kind of a brain trust too. You know, one of the things that we all do a rotation of hospital dentistry. At least I think we all do, right?
Yep.
One of the things that I liked the most about that was just having that brain trust of going back to the other dentists and the MDs that were in the group that we did and saying, hey, look, here are my findings. Here's what I'm thinking. What am I missing? Mm-hmm. And that is, I mean, it can be humbling, but it's powerful. And it's the way medicine should be practiced.
Medicine is a collaborative science.
But we're not.
Beats me.
Yeah.
Beats me. Like I said, when I lecture for these companies, all the faculty, we exchange cell phone numbers, right? We have each other's contacts. And we have our own groups that we kind of chat in. And it is amazing to me how many questions sometimes get pointed out to me that, hey, Harshit, can you please answer this for me? And I'm like, this guy is like a cosmetic surgeon who's like building people's bodies up, and he has a question for me, you know? And that's where it kind of also boosts my confidence to say that dentists bring a lot to the table.
I imagine you get referrals from them as well.
Not yet, because they're outside the state.
Gotcha.
But eventually, I'm hoping the network becomes big enough where they would be. But yeah, it is a collaborative science, and we have a lot to contribute, and we should start treating ourselves like so.
You know, I want to get into what you offer in the ways of how to systematize the approach and how to make the connections you need, things like that. But have you thought about reaching out to some of these other peers in this aesthetic space, bringing them on as consultants there, and then you can actually grow the network, not just through dentists, but also like anesthetists or aestheticians, and say, hey, look, you know, tell your people, it's not like they can do veneers. Mm-hmm. It's not like they can do a lot of the TMJ stuff that we do. And those are very real issues that their patients suffer from as well. Yeah. I think that you'd be branching out in a very powerful way there, because right now you're duplicating yourself. I've always found that to be very important. Mm-hmm. If you're wanting to make change, you can't scale with one set of hands.
Agreed.
And so I think that would be a very powerful approach.
Agreed 100%. And I think probably in 2 or 3 years, I'll be in a position where we can have more of those collaborations, right? The model for consulting that we built has been 15 months of work in addition to whatever else we were doing, right? And it's not just me. My right hand, my operations manager in Beyond Aesthetics, her name is Brittany. She's been with the company since day one. She was my first hire in the company. And she leads a lot of this process, right? So it's been a lot of work from our side to build this out. I think we are in that phase where we have our first licensee coming on board. They've potentially committed to two more locations. I'm talking to another individual for brand new two locations. So we are seeing a lot of interest and the model is growing, right? Now that that is in place, I think the next phase would be, Doc, what you said, get other medical practitioners more educated about what dentists can do, and then build out your referral, not from just your dental peers, but from your medical peers.
I think they have no idea. So, I mean, this, frankly, as it grows, this could change the face of medicine.
100%. It is going to change.
The Great Divide, right? So, or the Great Rebuff. I'm sorry, the Great Rebuff. You familiar?
No, I'm not.
All right. So, it wasn't over nitrous oxide. It was a dentist who invented nitrous oxide, but I believe it was two brothers or maybe two partner dentists who had created a model for a dental school, and they approached, I believe it was in Boston, that they approached the medical school there, and they said, "Hey, look, we want to start a dental school. We want to become a specialty of medicine," and they laughed them out of the building. Well, since that day, MDs, the AMA, has reached out and tried to bring dentists into the fold as specialists, but because of the Great Rebuff, where they said you're not a real doctor, they won't do it. And that's been an ongoing
Battle.
supposedly the reason of the divide between MDs and DDSs or DMDs. But I don't know, maybe what you do here heals that divide in 100 years. We'll see.
We'll see. I think it may heal the divide within the profession. Will it heal the legalities within the state and regulations?
Time will tell.
Time will tell. I don't have any hopes on that, but if it does, great. I would be honored to have instigated that fire and that spark to get into that. So, um, but yeah, the great rebuff.
So tell us a little bit about what it is that you provide people who are going to license this approach from you. And while you're doing that, I'm desperately looking up to see if I was right or not.
Okay. So this is how I'll start off. As a dentist, you can decide how deep you want to go, right? If you're like, hey, I just want to practice a little bit more functional medicine in addition to what I'm doing. I think the easiest step you can take is, like I said, the device from BTL. It's called M-Face, and we'll have all of this information like set out for you. Um, you can start doing functional things. You can start talking about TMD, and you can offer an additional treatment to your patient. Right? From there, you can start even more conversations about, okay, well, let's get a little bit more into muscle tone. Let's see if we can lift your face a little bit. This is not injections. This is not talks. This is not fillers. We are helping your physiology, right? So that is a great introduction for a dentist to get into the aesthetic industry. If they're like, hey, I cannot tackle the whole thing. I want something small. Let's start with something small. From there on, you can then graduate to getting more devices. You can start to graduate and get more into the other treatment offerings, right? And then that is how you start building out your med spa. It's not necessary that you build the entire thing up front. And I keep saying that again and again because it is a very daunting task. It is something that dentists are not used to looking at. We've been trained in dentistry, we've not been trained in medical aesthetics. We have the foundational knowledge. I can provide the building blocks to build that knowledge up so that you can become a med spa owner and a practitioner.
And with the CE component that you were talking about adding earlier that you have added, I can see where you're going to be scaling that.
Exactly. So our vertical where it's education, so it's called the Center for Education, right? That is going to be the repository for all education materials. For patients, it's going to be free, open source, it's right there. And for dentists, you log in and now you have access to all these courses. And in these courses, we have courses about every other offering, right? So where beyond aesthetics comes into play is if you're like, hey, I just need to understand the legalities of what can I do in my state, what are the procedures I can offer, and who are the people I need to hire, right? So we have a product which we lovingly call Legal Schmiegel.
I love it.
Right? We go over the basics of how to start a med spa business, the things that you need to be aware of, legalities in your state, who can practice what, scope of practice, how to organize, get your malpractice insurance in place, organize a company, what EHR you need, all of the basic foundational building blocks that you need for your business. Right? So that is what we offer in that consulting package. Okay. The next one is Legal Schmiegel plus an addition of clinical. So let's say you bring on XYZ services. You bring on in our model is module based, right? So everything that you add is a module. So depending on the devices and the services you bring in, we will come in and train your team, clinical as well as admin, on how to execute this plan. Clinical is extremely important because over the last 3 years, I have perfected what to do, what not to do, and what combinations and things you can use to get the best result. Because it's not coming from just one company. We have products, we have so many different things that we can combine and give a multidisciplinary approach to that technique, right? So once you get that in, you need education, clinical education, and the know-how, the processes, the QRGs to understand how do you execute this in my patient? What are the things that we are looking for? So we provide the clinical aspect. But what is the clinical aspect if the admin doesn't know what they're doing? It's like your treatment plan coordinator needs to understand what an implant is, what a crown is, and what a filling is. If they don't, then how are they going to present the plan? So we cover the admin training also, how to speak to these patients, what is the verbiage, how do you package things, how do you package this with dentistry, right? Because as dentists, we do all of these treatments all the time. And let's say you own both the sides of the business, you can easily package, I can run the numbers on the back end and it'll start making sense that, yeah, I'm discounting this 30%, but I can afford to because this is an 80% margin business, right? So all of those things come in that larger consulting package, right? And the third offering we have is what we call our licensing program, where beyond aesthetics and building trust in healthcare is the licensing and the branding that we can come and offer to you. So let's say you are Doc's Dental Practice, right? So it will be beyond aesthetics at Doc's Dental Practice. It can be beyond aesthetics at True Smiles, beyond aesthetics at whatever your practice name is. It's like the Apple Store inside Best Buy, right? Um, with the licensing program, the way it works is you get our branding, you get our licensing, you get all of our back end clinical procedures straight onto you. Anything that we change, that we do, it'll get updated. So you belong to that community. Imagine a franchise, but we don't dictate your operations. I'm not going to tell you who to hire. I'm not going to tell you what color of your chair is. I'm not going to get into the operations of your business. I'm simply coming in with the know how, the knowledge, so that you can always stay in compliance and keep continuing to do the business.
So what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, is you supply both the SOPs and the systemization and systems so that they can kind of hit the ground running without having to experiment.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel. The entire thing is already set in place for you. You don't have to research a thing. It is turnkey, plug and play, and you can start off. And because it's a licensing program, we don't take a chunk of money out from you.
I was going to ask that because that's
Yes,
an important thing.
that's
I've
an
seen
important thing,
things
yeah.
like this done before, and they
Exactly.
always want, oh, we'll take 10% of your gross profits. And I'm like, whoa, I don't think so.
Yeah. So the way we do it is in our licensing program, we take 4% of your revenue. Okay. And that's just straight up revenue. And in return, you get all our knowledge, you get support. There is timed support, meaning you don't get 1,000 hours a year. Depending on how much revenue you have, you are going to need more and more support, and our support system scales accordingly. You get all of our group buys and discounts. You get preferred pricing with all of these vendors. And at any point, let's say you have a question. Oh, I saw this patient. You take the set of photographs that we've taught you to take, you can send it back to us. Then we can come up and say, you know what, this is how you should do this treatment plan. So we have your back. Let's say there is a complication, there is a burn that comes up on the face. What do you do? Okay, do this, and do this. So you'll always have a knowledge base that you can dive into with us.
So on your side of things, how do you keep people from cheating you?
The EHR is key over here. So we use a specific electronic health record system. It's called Simplast. If you are a licensee, we will be plugged into your Simplast. And everything is transparent because it tracks revenue, it tracks procedures, it tracks everything. So we have visibility of everything. So if you're doing procedures legally, you should be putting it in the chart.
Right.
If you're putting it in the chart, we are going to know about it. We can track everything. That is how we keep the system kosher.
So for a practice owner, my first question would be, do I have to change my EHR?
No, you don't have to. This is
Okay.
an addition. Nothing changes in your practice. Absolutely nothing. The only caveat would be if you are getting some of the lasers, which is another company called Alma. If you're getting some of those lasers, you may need a room with a closed door because it is a laser.
Right.
Outside of that, absolutely
Class 3.
nothing changes. Class 2 devices.
Oh, class 2. Goodness. So it's got a CO2 Nd:YAG built in?
Not a CO2. We didn't get into CO2s. Once again, same thing. Regulation.
We'll geek out later.
Yeah.
So, all right, my next question as a practice owner would be, is this 4% of my revenue from this new endeavor or 4% of my revenue from my whole practice?
No, just the new endeavor. Your dental practice is yours. I want nothing to do with it.
But you see, that's going to be a question they're going to ask.
Agreed, 100%. Thank you for clarifying that. This is strictly of the new endeavor, right? So let's say in the first year, you bring in 100,000 revenue, you're just paying me $4,000. That's it. We do have a monthly minimum, which kicks in at 3 months, right? Because you're going to take a little bit of time. So I think if I remember correctly, it's either $500 a month or 4% of the practice, because it takes a certain amount of work from us to maintain systems on your side.
And they're going to say that in just discounts from your
Just
from
discounts is
your
good,
buying club.
like this. One
Pardon
order
me.
of your filler will probably save you like $3,000.
I was going to say, how do you make Botox work? Because you guys, if I'm right, and I think you're a pretty clever guy, so you are leveraging the buying power of every practice that is doing this.
Mhm.
And so the cost per patient is going to be far lower. So your overhead per treatment per clinic is going to be lower.
Lower and lower. And the more people join this, the bigger it gets.
So can they order a minimal number of units? Because I know one of the things, I looked into Botox. I didn't tell you this.
Mm-hmm.
My vision whenever I built Winning Smiles was actually to build a med spa. So
Life
it's-
is a full circle. Dog, you got to get back
I
again.
know. I don't know that I want to touch patients anymore. But
You don't have to.
so the thing that dissuaded me from it is because Botox was such a big thing back then. Fillers were such a big thing. We can't do, I don't know if they can do fillers now. I know when I was practicing, you couldn't, but there was some legislation. And if one of you guys is hearing this and says, "Hey, doc, you're wrong. We can do them now." Go ahead and put that in. But the only way you could do Botox was as a comprehensive. It's very loosely worded, comprehensive orthodontic treatment plan.
Mhm.
And so there was a lot of ambiguity as to what that meant.
Mhm.
You know, does that mean I've got a high smile line? Is that comprehensive?
Mhm.
Or does that mean that I have to be doing an FMR?
Mhm.
Does it mean they have to have TMJ? What's comprehensive?
Mhm.
And so I imagine that's one of the legal hurdles you guys help them to navigate.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about that, because you
Yes.
know Texas is weird when it comes to some of its laws. And I imagine from some of the stories I've heard from other people,
Mhm.
there are other states that are even more bizarre.
Yes. It's all over the map and it's all over the place. So, once again, the lens that everything filters through, building trust in healthcare. I want to make sure that the brand and everyone who's within the brand stays on the right side of the law, period. There is no gray area. The point is, and this is talking to multiple authorities in multiple states, they said if it is ambiguous, if there is a complaint, it is going to go against the practitioner, period. They're not going to rule in your favor, they're going to rule against you, right? So the idea is stay within the law in a way that the board can dance circles around you and nothing can be done about it, which means that we are very conservative of what we allow the dentist to do.
And part of that is going to be your record keeping.
Exactly.
And the dental board is not used to reading soap notes as opposed to just gibberish, typed into the EHR.
Exactly. And that is where we come into play because our notes already have a standard that we've built in. You just have to plug your numbers in and you're done, right? That is part of the licensing program. And once again, depending on where you practice, we'll come in and we'll say, okay, in your state, these are the rules that are needed for practice. For you, if you want to do all of this, you will have to hire X person. You may have to hire Y person, or you may have to have a medical director, which we'll help you get. And if you have all of these things in place, if you follow these protocols, you can do non surgical body contouring in your office and IV hydration and hormone replacement and weight loss for your patients.
So back to the business model.
Mhm.
And there's one thing that's obvious to me that has to take place as part of your growth in your network, and that's going to be a nationwide advertising campaign, which I'm sure you already have figured out.
I have not, but
Well,
in the process.
that's got to happen.
Yeah.
And gosh, what was my other thought here?
Sorry, I short circuited your
No,
brain.
that's okay. It happens all the time. My brain is all messed up and broken. I'll come back to it. It was an important question. Let's jump to another question I had, which was in the state of Texas. I'm going to throw this on you, and I don't expect you to know it off your head because there's 50 states you're looking at. How can you help someone specifically here? Because a lot of our listeners are from Texas.
Mhm.
A lot of our members in TBOD are from Texas. What can they do? What do they have to hire someone to do?
Mhm.
Just kind of
Sure.
go through that.
So, like I said, in our recommendations for any doctor, we are going to make it very black and white. You will and can do this, and you shall not do this under any circumstance. Okay, so that's one. The next layer is if there is a dental diagnosis attached, you can do that treatment. Okay, I'll repeat that once again. If there is a dental diagnosis that is attached, obviously it has to be legit. You can justify to do the treatment if you have the consents in place. No board can touch you because there is a dental diagnosis, right? Now, is there a dental diagnosis for hormone replacement therapy? No, there is none, right? But a lot of the facial aesthetic stuff, there is. So that is rule number two. If you can attach a dental diagnosis to it, you can do the treatment. Don't worry about it. Even though it is an aesthetic device, it may be a class 2 device, it may be a class 3 device, doesn't matter. You can do it, right? Now, when it comes to tox and fillers is purely cosmetic. When it comes to tox, it is pretty clear what the state is trying to tell you. They're trying to tell you you can do it as functional or you can do it as cosmetic also. The language they use, they keep it ambiguous because they want the ability to decide. That is why the language is ambiguous. It is not to create confusion in your mind, it is to give them the leverage to do what they want. But based on the language, it's pretty clear what they're trying to tell you. So it's either going to be functional or it's going to be cosmetic also. If it is functional only, you will be hiring another provider to get the Botox done. Period. There is no questions asked about it. Right? Now, what provider can you hire? That itself is a huge conversation because you can hire a nurse, you can hire a PA.
Can you hire them? In the state
Yes,
of
you
Texas, you cannot supervise anything that you can't do.
Which is why there's a medical director module that we have.
That's why I thought that might be why.
Yes, where if you have a medical director, under the medical director's guise and scope of practice, you can have in your practice a PA, an RN, an NP who can provide those services. So you as a dentist, most states, I don't want to say all states, but most states in the US do not consider dentists as physicians by the law. I'm not talking philosophically. Legally, dentists are not uh, physicians.
With the possible exception of OMSMD,
Exactly.
Which they get special treatment in Texas.
Agreed. Also because they have the MD, now
Right.
you're a physician, right? So there is a certain way of doing these treatments then. As a dentist, you can own a business. As a dentist, you can own a med spa. You don't have to be the provider in the med spa, but you can own one. The med spa can be located in your practice. It can share location. It will pay rent to your practice. All of those things can be legally managed.
And the beautiful thing about that is the lower taxes on the income from the rent.
I love how you put those small little like business things in between. It's amazing.
It's just the way I think.
Just yeah. So from that perspective, dentists can own a med spa based on the state they are in. There may be some procedures that they are themselves able to do as clinicians, which then becomes a high margin service for you. And the others that you cannot do, you will have to pay a provider. Sucks, but still it is a high margin procedure. And you are making a lot more money that you weren't making at all before.
So I imagine when you're doing something like this licensing agreement, you're opening yourself up theoretically to some liability. So
Sure.
you do have to control things very tightly. Are you you're obviously providing them with education,
Mhm.
or you're providing them with the consents, and have the consents been
Yes.
proved per
Yes.
state?
All of that has been done and taken care of.
So there's a lot of dentists out there who kind of make up their own consents
Oh,
or
no.
copy it from someone else. And I don't think they realize that the body of law in each state is different.
Mhm.
And something that might work in Massachusetts isn't working over here.
Exactly. So yeah, it is customized, and the way we do it is as we open up more and more states, we keep adding a little bit more language so that everything then gets applied to everyone, right? And now here's the good part of this. Because you are part of our program, if there is an update, it gets pushed to everyone by default. It's not like there's a charge. No. If we find a new medication, if we find a new product, it gets pushed to everyone. You get training on it by default. You get the product on it by default, right?
Talk to me a little bit about the training itself. I've run several CE events. I've
Mhm.
participated in several, lectured.
Mhm.
How are you planning to roll this out? Is it going to be a centralized study location, a centralized learning center, perhaps, or are you going to have webinars, mandatory webinars, I'm guessing?
Everything is mandatory. So the way we do this is we've tied in with the education structure of the respective vendors from where you're getting different things for your business. For example, the EHR. We have a tie-in with them where they will teach the basics, then we'll test your level of the basics, then my team will come in and teach the advanced. This can be done remotely because it is on an EHR. You're sitting in front of a screen. You don't need to be sitting right next to me, right? So that can be done remotely. And once again, it is customized to every practice because every practice will be at a slightly different level, right? All of the webinar, all of the webinars are recorded and it goes into your own personal Dropbox repository, which is HIPAA compliant, that you can refer to at any point. So your training will always be with you, right? Let's get into the clinical training. Depending on what it is, let's say if it is device based, depending on the size of your office, right? You could either fly out into our location, which we've set up as a full education center, with a conference room and everything, and all the companies are used to coming into our office and training people. Or if you have a very large office, our trainers will fly out to you with a strict schedule of this and this and this needs to be done before we come in. And they'll be on site with you for a period of 2 days and get the training in place.
I'm imagining the phlebotomy training has to be in person.
100%.
So going there, because there is so much in the way of injections and non-dental injections that you're doing and the need to train, I'm guessing that you've added PRP and PRF into your training regimen. Thank you so much.
PRP, PRF.
Every dentist who does surgery needs to know PRF and PRP.
Exactly. And there are so many resources to it. That is part of it. We have microneedling, we have mesotherapy, and that also uses PRP, PRF in addition to hyaluronic acid and Botox, which we have as our home mixture. That was my face one day.
Right.
So yeah, all of those things we've already figured out and it's become a part of our treatment.
So do you guys also use biostimulation? I know you use some plasma ablation, but if I remember correctly, biostimulation with a laser between 800 and 750 nanometers frequency will cause the contraction of collagen fibers. Am I remembering that correctly? I believe it's the light walker they use for that.
Yes. So we don't have that specific device, the Lightwalker by Photona.
Right.
So the thing with lasers is...
I already asked you this question, but I'm asking it again because we didn't ask it in the camera.
Okay. So the thing with lasers is, depending on the wavelength of the laser, it serves a very specific function, right? For example, brown spots on your skin get taken off by a certain wavelength of laser. Red spots with a certain wavelength. Capillaries with a different wavelength, right? Every laser company has a specific wavelength of laser that they manufacture or multiples. And then they say that, okay, with this laser, you can contract collagen. Now you can help people breathe better because you can do X, Y, and Z, right? We personally don't use Photona products. We use other lasers. Once again, this is more for aesthetics. If you have a Photona, great, do it. It works for you. Fantastic. It's not part of our regimen yet.
I hadn't even thought about photodegradation of melanin. That's a really good point. But it also brings up another question. As these dentists are learning this very particular, the Liam Neeson skill set, I have a very particular set of skills. As they're learning these skills, it seems to me that you're going to have a primer in some cases and perhaps just a catch-up course for skin lesions, melanomas, squamous cell carcinomas, things like that. How are you handling that part of things? And I think that's fantastic. I think a lot of dentists forget a lot of the things that we learned in school.
That is part of
I'm guilty.
Yeah, same here. I didn't know this before. Like, I'm like, oh, I remember something like this. The last time I read this was in Schaefer 20 years ago. Need to bring that up again. So I agree. And that is part of our clinical training. So like I said, when we start off with our training, the first one is skin basics. We start off with these are the layers of the skin. This is a hair follicle. This is where blood vessels are. So we start off with physiology first, basic anatomy first. Then we start off with the different pathologies based on what you're going to do. We dive into that. Then we dive into simple. How does a sunscreen work? How does a cleanser work? How does an exfoliant work? What do you need to do to protect your skin? It was Perio 101. How do you hold your brush while brushing your teeth? The Bass technique, right? So the same kind of philosophy goes into this place. So we start with the basics first, where you as a dentist can now feel comfortable saying, okay, I knew this, it was in the back of my mind, now it is in the forefront and I can understand. From there, we go into the corporate training, meaning the companies will come in, they'll train you on their devices. Then we have a regimen. You'll do that treatment a couple of times. Then we will come in and we'll sit down with you and we'll give you the whole 9 yards of how to do this truly on a day to day basis.
So some thoughts, unless I'm interrupting a thought chain. The first thing is you're going to have to come up with a patient education campaign and do so in a manner that the advertising is not just done legally because it's a dentist doing it, but is done legally because it's a medical treatment. And I'm sure you're already on that one.
We are already on that. So once again, this falls in my education company side, where we are developing, and I envision this both digital and analog. In the analog, it's a pamphlet. It goes across all specialties of dentistry. What is a cavity? What is gum disease? So we are describing the disease itself and we are educating the patient. We are not saying what is an SRP. We are not saying why do you need a laser treatment. We are educating the patient of their conditions. Hence, what is melasma? Why do you have spider veins on your face? We go through the entire education and then we say that these are the potential treatments. And it is possible that in your state, no matter what we do, you cannot do that treatment. Great. Now you have an opportunity to go introduce yourself to the derm next door, establish that relationship with them so you can refer them derm patients, and in return, they'll refer you dental patients.
Or just hire them.
Or just hire them. Derms are expensive, but
my sister's actually a cardiac nurse, but she makes most of her money by treating varicose veins.
Exactly, right? So that's the whole point of how much do you need to know to first do the treatment. Yes, you need to know the full depth of it. But if you're not doing the treatment, how to recognize it and then how to refer or how to hire someone to do it.
So one of the things that you mentioned earlier in the podcast, and I want to get to the lab in a couple of seconds and have you talk about what your philosophies are there and how that operates. But one of the things that you mentioned was developing your own FDA cleared products. I happen to know this dentist who invented the most badass topical on the face of the earth. It's called Doc Off's LET.
Oh, really?
And we could sell it in Texas because the compounding pharmacy had a license to be able to sell here, but they weren't a 503. Mm-hmm. So can other dentists reach out to you and get help to take their creations and make them something that can be sold nationwide rather than having to be on a prescription-only basis?
100% it can be done. I'll introduce you to other pharmacies who can do this on a nation basis. I don't want any money. I'll make the introduction. Do what you want with the pharmacy. If they can fulfill you as a business, go for it. Because at the end of the day, the dollars should make sense for the pharmacy also.
So you hear that, guys. If you've invented something, give the man a call.
Yeah. And there are pharmacies who are licensed to sell in 40 states, in 45 states, in 49 states. I'm yet to find someone who's all 50, but there are a lot of pharmacies who will do it. Now, each pharmacy, each compounding pharmacy has a certain limitation or scope that they're trying to kind of reach out to, right? That's their business model. But if you give them enough volume, they will be able to do that for you. Now, as a practitioner, right? Once again, depending on state, but for the most part, as a practitioner, you cannot sell your formulation.
But you can license it to the pharmacy who can
Exactly.
sell it, and then they
The
can give you a
pharmacy
royalty.
exactly. Yes.
I've
Because
gotten that for.
yeah. So you cannot be a pharmacist unless you get a pharmacy license. Sure, you can, but then yes, you can have that route with the pharmacy, no problem at all.
Interesting.
And that is something that we are already exploring. Like I said, we have FDA approved skincare products. I am looking into getting FDA approved nutraceuticals to help with implant healing, to help with perio disease, to help with all on X cases. We have our own protocol of this is what we do when we start an all on X case. We don't do surgery the next week. Uh, Dr. Perez has them on certain medications for a month, sometimes 2 months, to clear things out, to get their blood work in order.
So you guys do run blood work for your cases?
It has
then?
to be.
Absolutely.
There's no questions asked. It has to be done.
So earlier we talked about the historic rebuff. The historic rebuff occurred in 1940. Chaplain Harris and Horace Hayden proposed the addition of dentistry to the University of Maryland College of Medicine. They responded, dentistry is of little consequence. And sadly, no one informed the body of this arrangement. And so the teeth they don't know that they're supposed to keep their problems to themselves. So
Very
anyway,
interesting.
talk to me a little bit about the lab. And I also want you to briefly explore the elephant in the room you mentioned earlier, trust in medicine. Talk to us a little bit about how COVID affected patient trust and how this model might help to rebuild that.
So my experience in COVID and patient care was probably very different than others. Um, I think when it came to trust, my patients trusted me more than my own family and friends, which is kind of weird. I'm like, why can't you trust me? Yeah, I'm your brother. We grew
You're
up
just
together.
Harshit.
Yeah.
That's it. You're my
Right.
brother.
Uh, but patients truly looked upon dentists as advisors. Like patients were asking me, should I take the vaccine? What are going to be the side effects of this? Right. And here's the thing, at that point, it was the blind leading the blind. Now, I'm not saying the vaccine is good or bad. I'm just saying that I myself didn't have enough information.
Did you give him the Nancy Pelosi answer?
I don't know what that answer is. Sorry.
You have to pass the bill to know it's in the bill. You got to take the vaccine to see what's going to happen.
What's going to happen? Okay.
That's as political as I'm getting today, guys.
Yeah. So from that perspective, like I said, I think dentists have a great relationship with their patients where that trust level is extremely high once the patient is in your practice for a certain amount of time. Now, there are obviously practice shoppers who will come in who are not going to trust anyone. That's not the demographic that I'm looking for. But the patients who are in my practice, I have those personal relationships. And here's the thing, I have worked on a daily basis to gain their trust. I do things in my practice where they will blindly trust me to a fault many a times, and they'll be like, whatever doc you want to do, you do. I'm like, no, that is not the point. I need you to make this choice. I cannot make this choice for you.
Right.
So that takes time to build. It's slow. You cannot scale trust. You cannot make more money while making more trust. No, those things may not go at the same rate. My first, and I think we're digressing completely over here.
No, that's okay. I think
But-
this is an important discussion.
Yeah, my first year ownership as a dentist, I took home $70,000. That's it.
Yeah, I spent $125,000 my first year on CE.
Right. So it goes to say that same thing. You have to put trust first. You have to watch out for the patient's interest first, even though it costs you more money. And then once you do it long enough, once the practice is known for that, it just magnifies. Like, we don't spend a dollar in advertising. I tried last year to get on the, hey, let's try and do the all on four sort of advertising. I spent a boatload of money with zero return. I said, why am I doing this? I'm getting more cases with referrals without doing this. So why? Right. So I think it goes back to the same thing. You build trust to a level where they'll accept what you say, but that gives you, or that puts you in a position of responsibility. You need to be responsible. You cannot be lackadaisical about it. Once you've gained that trust, it is your duty to uphold that trust. You have to keep educating yourself. You have to keep making sure you're at that tip of the spear that's pushing the.
You're preaching the choir here. We had a discussion this morning over coffee about how I feel so dumb now. I wouldn't say I was bleeding edge whenever it came to current techniques, but I was pretty close. Mm-hmm. And after 5 years of not doing dentistry and not really going and taking serious clinical updates, I feel so dumb now. You know, earlier I had a problem counting teeth.
But I looked at your photography equipment. You are on the bleeding edge of that for sure. Far more than Christopher Nolan, I would say.
So now the next question I wanted to ask you is about your lab. Talk to us a little bit about the journey there. Talk to us a little bit about what you're doing now with the lab, and then go ahead and connect everything up and talk to them about the benefits of doing the aesthetic practice and what you offer the lab. And I'm going to put you on the spot. I want you, while you're talking, to think, can I offer TBOD members or people who will listen to this podcast a special discount?
100%. And I'll answer the discount at the very end. Okay. So the lab, I think I started the lab as a concept in my head before my vision was in place of being the all-in of dentistry, right? And I think that is because I'm a prosthodontist. I like to have a lab. I like to have that control. So having my own lab as a vision came in first, and then it kind of plugged in perfectly into the large vision that I was building. So when I built out my space, this was 2020, this was right during COVID. We broke ground, and 2 weeks later, the country shut down because of COVID. I had built out 800 square feet of space in my practice for strictly the lab. That was it, right? And what triggered that decision was, I still remember the story clear as day. Patient comes in, emergency. He's like, doc, delivered an implant crown. It's loose. I'm like, screw loosening happens. Don't worry. Come in. I'll open it, tighten the screw or change the screw out, seal it up. You'll be fine. Comes in. I open it. I take the crown off. Now, this is a Straumann implant. The abutment, the connecting portion of the abutment.
I already know exactly where you're going. It's happened to me.
Had sheared off of the abutment. So I was like, Happened to be the Straumann rep was in my hygiene chair at the same time.
Oh, that's fortuitous.
Right? So I kind of walk over to her and I'm like, hey, Bridget, do you see this abutment? It broke. And she looked at it and she's like, this is not a Straumann abutment. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, this is a knockoff. This is not an original Straumann abutment. And then she showed me and I was like, I didn't know. Okay.
I ordered one from the lab.
I call up the lab. Now, this lab is one of the larger labs in the area, very respectable. Back in 2018, they charged $650 for an abutment and a crown. That was 7 years ago, right? I don't know what their fee is today. So I call up the lab and I'm like, hey, and I speak to the owner. I was friends with him. I'm like, hey, XYZ, why did I get a knockoff abutment on a Straumann implant when you're charging me $650? And his cold response was, well, on the prescription, you didn't write you wanted original parts.
I learned that lesson early.
And I was like, it just blew my mind. I'm like, why are you charging $650 for this? It's like going into the Hermes store and then buying a knockoff. And they're telling you, well, you didn't ask for an original, hence here is a knockoff. But we're going to charge you the same amount.
Yeah.
So that is when I said, you know what? I'm done with this. I need to have control over the quality that goes into my patient's mouth. Because I wouldn't put it in my mouth. Why would I put it in my patient's mouth? That is when I said, I'm going to start my own lab where we're going to control every single vertical to a point where it's done as the best possible way it is. Another thing that used to drive me up the wall was on the lab script when you're check marking what material the crown is made out of. Right? So you come to the all ceramic, you have Emax, you have zirconia, and then you would have economy zirconia. And I'm like, what is economy zirconia? Why is it different? Why do you go to an orthopedic surgeon and say, hey, by the way, the hip implant you're giving me, give me the economy one? Why do we have this dichotomy of quality in medical devices that you're putting in patients' mouth?
Well, maybe when you go to the hip surgeon, if you didn't ask,
They wouldn't. Right? So, and at that time, I thought the cost would be significantly different because the lab would charge me either $59 or $100 or $150. So I thought maybe it is truly different. Fast forward, I start my lab. The cost per crown in raw material of, pardon my language, shitty zirconia versus good zirconia per crown is like $3 or $4.
scales of economy, though.
I agree. And here is my point. Why offer something that is that bad where the cost of acquisition is not that different? Because everything else is the same. The designer is the same. The person who's milling is the same. The machine is the same. The person who's staining is the same. So in the two products, I'm saving $3. Why am I even offering a lower, inferior quality product?
I think they're tripping over tripping over dollars to pick up pennies because they're not looking at it from the standpoint of remakes and the cost of remakes. Because for us, that's lost chair time.
That's lost chair
right?
time. Yeah.
For them, maybe the economies of it make sense. I wouldn't. I'd have a real hard ethical issue with that.
I have a big ethical issue with that, which is why. So coming back to the question, like, what does my lab do different? Why did I build my lab differently? So I'll list down 6 different things. Number 1, we are all digital. We don't do any analog. We are all model-less, right? When I say model-less, we are about 90% model-less. We do sometimes print a model in a large case to check contacts or something like that. But my all-on-X cases, all of them have been model-less and digital 100% for the past 3 years.
So, all right. So my business brain is whirling.
Yep.
You must be saving between 6 and 8% overhead because you don't have to worry about sterilization process for impressions.
Exactly.
How close am I? Am I a little bit over?
I save much more.
Yeah, not a bad decision.
Right.
And you've got better accuracy.
Agreed. Also, I don't have a model and a plaster department. Right. I
Right.
just have.
Oh, I
printers.
hadn't thought about the actual department for pouring and everything as well. Oh yeah, gosh, that's a great savings.
Huge savings as a lab. Now, is there a time when you need models? Yes, there is. And for removable dentistry, for removable lab work, I actually partner with other labs to fill that space. I'm strictly fixed. I have a partner lab that does all the removal for all of my clients, right? With scale, I may bring it in-house. We'll see how things go. Because it is going to happen. It will come in-house because digital manufacturing is going to a level where I will bring it in-house. It's a matter
Well,
of time.
maybe they'll finally get a scanner that can scan a partially edentulous arch with a tongue in place that you can print that model.
Exactly the same way.
But yeah, tissue response would still be an issue. But
Just geeking out on that, I think
tissue. Were you going to talk about tissue
Not
compression
tissue
and
response.
impression materials?
Yeah, yes and no. Here's the thing. I think for removable, my utopian removable universe is you come in, I scan everything, I design everything, and I directly manufacture the final prosthesis. There is no model. So the metal framework for an RPD would be laser sintered. It goes into a different machine where the entire acrylic is printed around and on it. So now it is one piece with no correctional steps in between that you're compensating for. Becomes very accurate.
So I know a bit about laser sintering.
Mhm.
How much fun have you had with that at non-dental?
Oh, I don't have a non-dental thing in my thing, but I know exactly what you're talking about. I
That's
do
some
know
fun
a guy.
stuff.
It is fun stuff. Um, and that's what I'm saying. Like, it is going to translate to a point where it becomes more economically feasible.
Right. And that's going to be transformative.
Very. And are we using laser sintering now in dentistry? 100%. But the machines are much larger and much more expensive. Are they getting cheaper by the day? 100%. Are they scaling it down? 100%. So, like I said, it's a matter of time when even removable will be modelless, direct manufacturing of the product, nothing else in between.
I know laser sintering is so much better than some of the technologies that were at the forefront when I was practicing. I remember there was a company that had basically was gold in a carrier,
Mhm.
and you would 3D print it,
Mhm.
and then you would bake that in your oven,
Mhm.
and basically you'd have to account for a certain amount of shrinkage that was built into the algorithm, but they just didn't fit as well as what my experience was with a good lab hand waxing it.
Yep. So, great thing you bring up gold. Our gold crowns are also digital. Okay. And that was the last step in fixed I took converting to digital. My All on X became digital before my gold crown. Same reason. I know
Absolutely.
exactly what you're saying. Because I couldn't find a digital solution. Finally, I found this milling company that actually mills the gold crown.
And then they just capture the waste, remelt it.
Exactly. They use 99.94%.
They've got a hell of a workflow.
They have a hell of a workflow. And they're like, even that 0.02% is a huge number. And I'm like, I totally get it.
So I have to tell a story here. It'll be real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
So during dental school, there are a couple of people who really dislike this about me. But like I told you, I've always been very business minded, particularly in dental school. So I made some ways people don't like. So I would check the spot price of gold every single day.
Okay.
So I knew how much it was going for. And at the end of every semester, I would purchase all the unused gold from all the seniors and juniors who no longer had to use the broken arm caster. And then I would purchase it for 50% spot price, which was higher than they could get at a recycler. And then I would just wait until the spot price went up, and then I'd sell it off. But I would also I made a little hand vacuum, and I would go after every single lab class, and I would vacuum up the broken arm caster, and then I would melt that down. I'd throw some flux in there to purify it, and I would sell that too. I made a good bit of money with that.
Oh, I'm sure you made a good bit of money. Imagine if you hadn't sold any of that and you still had it today.
Yeah.
Life happens.
Life happens. But, I used that money to buy triturators and things like that, so that whenever I was in practice in the school,
Mhm.
I had my own, oh man, I don't want to get anyone in trouble. I had my own electrosurge and I had my own triturator and I had my own alginate mixer.
Oh, really?
Have you seen those where you dump in a certain amount of water?
And you just like,
So I had a setup. And so that's one of the reasons I finished all my clinical work so early, because I didn't have to go and check things
check
out.
things out. Yeah.
Um,
Interesting.
if any dental school students out there,
He's the guy.
bring the dispensary ladies donuts every morning. It will pay you back in spades. But go ahead. I'm sorry about
That's
that.
so funny. No. All good. So I think going back to the discussion, how is my lab different from others, right? So like I said, number one, we are all digital. Now let's say you are a dentist who's like, well, I have an old scanner, or I don't know how to do this. I will walk with you step by step to advise you what scanner is best for you. I've worked with all scanners. Um, I'll teach you how to do it. I'll train your team how to do it so that you can give me the best result.
Now, you and I had this discussion a little earlier. Give us a breakdown, a tier list. The
Mhm.
kids like tier lists.
Sure.
Give me a tier list of the scanners.
Sure. So once again, it goes to what you're trying to achieve with your scanner, right? Personally, I use the Medit. I think Trios is a great scanner. I think the newer Sirona scanners are pretty good. Dexis has upped their game. I think 3M's just gone by the wayside at this point. Uh, but I mean, any of the larger companies, their newer scanners are pretty good. Like Itero 5D, great scanner. I hate the price point. It's $50,000. I don't think you need $50,000 scanners in your office, but should your business justify it because you do 20 Invisalign starts every month, go for it, right? Um, so in one of the lectures that I do is scanning and digital technology with photogrammetry. So if you're an office who has a bunch of Trios 3s, right, and you're starting to get more into full arch cases, all on X, all on 4s, instead of upgrading all the scanners, I would say buy photogrammetry, because at the end of the day, the all on X protocol success depends mostly on one factor. And I'm talking restorative, I'm not talking surgical.
Cross arch stability.
Passivity.
Oh, yeah. Gosh, yeah. I didn't even think about that.
The thing has to be passive or else it will fail.
And cross arch stability equals
It is
passivity.
passivity. So we're talking the same exact thing.
Yeah, but I hadn't thought of. I knew that the cross arch was important,
Mhm.
and I knew that it was important for the fit, but I hadn't taken it that extra step.
So how do you make restorations more passive? It's all about data acquisition. Scanners are accurate to a certain point. Older scanners cross arch 100 microns. Newer scanners cross arch 50 microns. Tomorrow there'll be a newer scanner which will be cross arch 30 microns, right? Photogrammetry is 5 microns.
Right.
So use your 100 micron scanner, get it to 100 microns, then put the photogrammetry on top of it. Now you're at 5 microns for a roll on X, and the 100 micron you can use for whatever you're using now.
I suspect that's probably because there's a standardization of the fiduciary markers.
That is correct, yes. And the technology is significantly different. And I think we're getting a little bit into clinical, but let's get it out because this is something very important dentists are not looking at. There is certain XYZ company selling an intraoral scanner saying that this is also photogrammetry. No, it is not. An airplane and a ship are two different vehicles.
They both navigate fluids.
Different fluids.
Technically, the air is a fluid. Go on.
Agree. So the way a scanner works is it stitches data. The way photogrammetry works is it does not stitch data. It acquires coordinates. So your scanner is either stitching or acquiring coordinates. It cannot do both. The reason why it is 5 micron accurate is because it acquires those coordinates with respect to each other and keeps them in place. And then you fill it in with the intraoral scanner. All what this new scanner that does photogrammetry is doing is just stitching data more accurately. It is truly not photogrammetry. And that is something that you need to realize. I have doctors call me up. They're like, oh, I have a photogrammetry device. I'm like, which one? And they name the scanner. I'm like, no, that is a scanner. They're like, no, but the rep said it can do photogrammetry. I'm like, no, it's called black magic. They're making a fool out of you. It is still a very accurate scanner, but it's not photogrammetry. Right? So I think dentists need to be aware of what technology exists, which is why I said, I'll have a conversation with you. Let's take a look at what your practice is, what your lab work is, what your workflows are. And then based on that, we can advise you. Let's say you're like, hey, I don't have a scanner at all. I want to get into scanning. Great. Now let's look at more the high-end scanners. Let's take a look at the Trios 5, the Medit 700, the Medit 900. You know, they will help you do a lot of things. And let's say you get that one case a month or the one case every 6 months for an all on X. I will give you other tools to improve your passivity without breaking your bank. and you can sleep well at night, right? So, uh, being digital and being able to guide you to how to go digital, I can help you. Because the reason why I took 3 years in my lab to grow to a point was because I was experimenting on my own self. I would go do a crown, design it a certain way, manufacture it a certain way, come back, oh, this doesn't work. Dang. Now that design experiment cycle is like 2.5 weeks. Now you iterate again, you iterate again, you iterate again, right? So it's been a learning curve and a learning process. We've put systems in place where now we can say that, okay, we have a product, we are ready to scale. Now we can accept more work and scale up really well.
So with the lab, we've kind of covered that you use OEM parts.
Right. So
Good.
I'll go in depth in that also. So, uh, like I said, 6 things. One of them is FDA regulated workflows. Right. Analog dentistry is very different. Digital dentistry is very different. I can use parts of the system that you're using to scan. Meaning, if you don't use an OEM scan body, I cannot use an OEM abutment on it because the libraries don't talk to each other.
Right.
Right. So if you end up using Atlantis's scan body, I cannot get you a Nobel abutment.
So you need to talk to them about what a library is because most dentists don't know.
Don't know. So the way it works in digital dentistry is, let's say you scan a scan body, right? A digital impression post. The computer has a set of data points built in by the manufacturer that helps it recognize what you have scanned. So let's say I scan this pen. Now, is this a big pen or is this a pilot pen? How does the computer know that? So the computer will match this to the library provided by Pilot and say, well, this looks like a pilot. So this must be a pilot. This looks like a big, so it must be a big. So that is what a library is. It's digital data that's given by the manufacturer of what their products look like.
Thousands and thousands of little polygons.
Millions,
Right.
maybe, right? The smaller the polygons, the better the resolution.
Absolutely.
So if you scan with a scan body that was not OEM, even if you ask me for an OEM, I cannot, because this manufacturer of the scan body does not know how the OEM abutment is oriented in space. They know how their abutment is oriented in space, but they don't know the OEM. And that data is actually secure and private. Can you break it? Yes.
I so want to get into thread timing, but we're not going to do it.
Yeah, thread timing is a completely different. Oh yeah, don't get me started on that.
Now, it's important to know that although this is true for abutments and for implants as well, because when you're doing monoliths, they have to know what the implant looks like.
Mm-hmm.
It's also true for teeth, guys. So there are tooth libraries
Mm-hmm.
out there as well, and so your lab will be limited to the number of libraries they have whenever they're making a 3D model.
Mm-hmm.
So speak to that a little bit and talk to us a little bit about the libraries you incorporate for anybody out there who is a big geek like me.
Great. So first and foremost, I do not have a design department in my lab. I outsource all design. For the size,
Using Alien?
Russians.
The Russian mafia is helping.
For the size of the lab we are, I cannot have a designer that's good at doing each and everything that I want. Hence, I've said my design department is going to be a whole department which is not in house. So, my single crown guys are based out of Canada. My implant crown guys are based out of Seattle. My full rehab, full arch guys, they're based out of Belarus.
And the RPD guys are based out of Russia, right?
The RPD guys are based out of Arizona. The Belarusian
but
guy is
in
Russian.
Mother Russia. Remember a guy called Smirnov?
Yes.
Okay.
So depending on what work needs to be done, it goes to a separate designer. And the reason behind using specific designers is because one of the things is my All on X designers have access to a certain set of libraries. They have the Culp libraries, they have the Ivoclar, they have this, they have that, they have like thousands of different shapes of teeth, right? And that goes back to me training your office saying that, okay, if you are doing All on X, download and print all of these libraries so that you can do a good tooth selection for your patient. Right? If you're doing dentures, use X, Y, or Z libraries if you want to order those mold sets. That is where I come into play, and I can tie all of those things together for you as a practitioner so that you can get the exact result that you want.
So as a photographer, I can definitely see some utility there. An idea for workflow efficiency. If you had a standard set of orthodontic photos, which is what I did for every patient in my practice, you could develop an AI software that would run through facial shape, vertical dimension, and it would select the top 5 teeth shapes.
Mhm.
And then the dentist could just go, okay, which one of these do you like the best? And the teeth would appear in the patient's face. So maybe something to do in the future.
I'm sure RayScan is already working on it. Or ITER was probably working on it because they bought ExoCAD,
Right.
right? Because all of this data exists. It's all about,
It's all about how you wrap it.
yep, putting it together, analyzing it, and making the dollars make sense out of it. So I'm pretty sure it's going to come up very soon. And I don't have pockets deep enough to develop this product. Doc, maybe you have it. I don't. So
You know, I'm spending my money in different ways now.
I saw the photography collection you have.
Okay.
All right. So going back, right? Different things that we're touching on the lab, right? So we discussed digital dentistry, how to go there. Parts I discussed. As much as data you give me, it is going to be OEM FDA approved workflows. Okay. There are certain companies that sell products that not all of their products are FDA cleared. There are some that have FDA clearances to a point where other companies like Nobel, like Zimmer Biomet 3i, they use this third party company to make their products, right? And if you're using that, great. I was speaking to one of the Nobel reps and I showed them, Nobel, you're selling me this abutment with your name on it. The manufacturer is the same as this. They manufactured both the abutments. This is their label. This is your label. The price of your label is an extra $30, right? Come on and reason with me over here. So once again, is my lab kosher? It is 100% FDA approved workflow kosher, but it depends on the data that you give me. If you don't give me good data, I cannot give you a good product, right? The other differentiating factor, we touched briefly upon this, the zirconia. There is the level of knowledge which you are like, okay, this is 3Y, this is 5Y zirconia, this is how it layers, this is how aesthetics happen. The next layer is who's the manufacturer of your zirconia. But the next layer is who manufactured the raw product zirconia, right?
China.
It is. There are 3 manufacturers of medical grade zirconia, raw material. All of them are East Asia based, Japan and China, right? Toso is one of the largest ones from them. They make the most medical grade zirconia that's out on the market. Now, the middleman, and the middleman is Dentsply, Ivoclar, name any company. They buy the zirconia from said companies. They have their own manufacturing process. They compress it into that puck and then they sell it to us as labs or dentists, right? The question is, how much zirconia is medical grade in their puck? Is it 10%? Is it 90%? Or is it 100%?
And it's not like the Chinese have been caught adulterating medical products ever in the past.
Never happened before, right? So you need to go down to the manufacturer and ascertain that they have their processes in place to check that this is 100% medical grade zirconia.
And they don't just order it as 100% medical grade. They actually have to chip it and run it through if I'm not mistaken, a spectrograph, right?
I don't know exactly what it is,
Or
but
gas chromatography or something.
something. So that is one. Now, based on that, I decided we are going to use one, two, or three, these three manufacturers, right? I and this was early on when I started off. I got pucks of the same color from these three manufacturers. I milled the same crown like 10 times. I sintered it and I saw what the result was after staining and glazing. From there, I narrowed it down to two. Okay. And I said, I'm going to visit the manufacturing facility of both of these manufacturers. Will they allow? Should they allow? One of them said, absolutely not. We're not going to allow you in.
Guess what? I'm not ordering anything from you.
Exactly. I'm like, okay, fine. Went to the other one. That's Arjun. They used to manufacture gold alloys. They started manufacturing zirconia. Wasn't as good, but now it is. I went to their facility. 100% medical grade zirconia. Each puck is measured independently for shrinkage.
Non-destructively?
Yes.
How?
They have that process.
Compressibility? Or
They have this machine, they put it in there, closes, takes about 10 or 15 seconds, spits out a number, and it prints it on the side.
I'm interested in knowing that process.
Yes. They are the only company that manufactures every single puck independently for the shrinkage factor. Why is that important? Passivity. Because no other company does that. They do it as a batch. They said that this entire batch has a shrinkage factor of 23.25%.
From one sample.
Exactly. So that doesn't give me the same efficacy and same sleep of mind, which is why now I can say that, yes, I can go all digital and not worry about passivity because I have all of these checks in place. The raw material is just one of them. Right? Now, I look at the cost to mill a crown. A cheaper zirconia is going to cost me $2 or $3 less. Why even bother with it? So you're only going to get the best quality Argent zirconia, layered, translucency the same or more as Emax, and is inherently colored.
And way more KPA that it can take.
Exactly. So from that, and going on a side note, I went away from doing same day dentistry because I'm like, I can deliver a better ceramic product than Emax on posterior teeth. Why am I doing the same day? So I swung back to doing it different, right? Now, when I went to Origin, also what I did was I bought 15 pucks for my full arches. So they have an HT, high translucent, which is lower translucency, higher strength. I bought 15 pucks. I milled the same design in each and every puck, and I sintered it on different sintering cycles. The whole time was different by 2 minutes. The whole temperature was different by 5 degrees.
Which affects the crystalline matrix that condenses.
Hugely affects it. I'm not even going to talk about speed firing zirconia. That is
stupid.
Fucking blasphemy.
Well, if you understand the chemistry of it, then it's not real smart.
It's not. Like, why are we selling this? I don't know why dentists are accepting this. It blows my mind.
We're probably getting too deep in the weeds for most people to understand, and I don't mind that.
Yeah.
But if we're going to continue on this path, you're going to have to explain why.
I'll let you explain
why. Well, the delta G increases too quickly, which is not going to create the bond lengthening of every single molecule at the same rate, which means that the crystalline structure that is formed is going to be irregular, which means that it's not going to have the same KPA because of compression strength is going to be off-axial loading rather than axial loading through the crystals. Am I correct?
You are correct. And I'll add to it, it's not just the heating, but the cooling is even more important.
Well, because that allows them to settle into their orbitals.
Exactly. So the entire thing is as important. Right? So I centered the zirconia, um, 15 arches. I marked them. I flew to Argent. I did the whole tour, understood the process, made sense. I went to the head quality control guy. I'm like, sir, I need your help. These are the 15 arches I have fired. Which one would you pass as good quality?
So they put them in the machine.
Yes. He gave me, this is the one that I would pass, which is good strength and good aesthetics. It's a balance between the two. I look at that, and that is the setting that I use on that furnace.
Yeah.
And that is different for
On that
every
furnace.
centering oven.
Because the thermocouple in every single centering oven may actually
different.
measure differently.
Right? So that is the depth of level that I have gone into manufacturing this. So all my full art zirconia is centered only in one oven. It is a beast of an oven. I can crank out 5 arches a day. Uh, but once again, it is calibrated to that, right?
So can dentists who use your lab go and see your process?
100%. It is an open door. Please come in. Please take a look at it.
I love that.
Yeah. Open book, right? So zirconia, medical grade zirconia, and the entire thing is calibrated into my manufacturing. Like milling, we didn't speak about milling. An average crown time, and I'm talking the same machine. I use Roland's. There are
Roland. Yeah, Roland's a great mill.
great Toyotas, right?
Did you say Toyotas?
Yeah,
I love it.
Precise. They do the job. They're reliable, and I can fix them. A lot of labs around me use the Rolands, right? So when I was building up my lab, the question was, what machine am I going to use, right? So I visited all the labs. I sat with them. I understood what the process was. So they would say, yeah, we can crank out a crown in about 7 to 8 minutes. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I like that. I like the number on it. I like the math on it. When I got my Rolands in, my milling times were 35 minutes. And I'm sitting and wondering, how is this lab doing it in 7 minutes? Well, they're cutting corners, right?
Wait, are you saying that when you mill something quickly, it increases the heat and could have the same effect of not centering it correctly?
Just one. I'm not going to increase the speed of my burrs and the milling process. I'm not going to go beyond a certain RPM. I'm going to use a 0.3 millimeter burr to final finish my zirconia, which then after sintering goes down to a 0.2 millimeter burr.
I saw you grinning like a demon earlier whenever I mentioned that dentists should be asking their labs what size burr they're using because it causes them to have a more passive fit. And now a light bulb just went off and I know why.
Yes. So if you're finishing to that accuracy, each crown is going to take 35 minutes in the mill, maybe 32 if I'm lucky. If it's a lower anterior, maybe 24, right? But that is the milling time. So yeah, selection of raw material, milling parameters, your milling strategies are very important, and then the sintering is as important. That is the quality that you get when you order a crown from our lab. And consistently, that is the only quality you'll get. Now, as I expand, I'm not going to add different machines. It's going to be the same machine because it's calibrated. My process is calibrated. My designers are calibrated. The tolerance on their design is calibrated. What is the cement space that you need on your crowns when you're designing? It is a different answer. For
0.4 for zirconia? Well, it depends. Does it depend on thickness of the cement?
Also depends on your manufacturing process. Mm-hmm. So that I have calibrated in my own office, experimenting with my own fit of the crown.
I think, and this is going back a few years because I got rid of my E4D, and that's the last time I had to worry about this. I got rid of my E4D in 2017. If I remember correctly, it did an offset of 0.3 or 0.4 millimeters. Is that close, or am I misremembering?
You could set it all the way from 0.1 to 0.8, the cement space. Even I had the E4D, the Plan Mecca. So you could visually kind of alter the cement space.
Worst purchase I ever made.
I say it was a good for me purchase because it introduced me to digital dentistry.
Gotcha.
And that is what triggered the process, right?
But the scanner was so bad, though.
Oh, the scanner was bad. Horrendous. Today also the scanner is very bad. But hey, we are on the same page. We digress.
So we're
had a
talking
break
about
for.
dye spacer.
So the point is, the entire process has been refined by me with my designers, where they're using a certain amount of cement space because that works in a certain amount of zirconia when it is manufactured and sintered this way. So you get that same exact glove fit every single time. Right? So the, the thought process behind the manufacturing is from a clinician's perspective. It is not from a lab's perspective. It's not from a business perspective. It is from a clinician's perspective to get you the best result.
So that begs the question. I'm used to sending my zirconia out for Brooks here at Glidewell. How much more am I paying here?
$99 for an all zirconia crown. This is a multi layered monolithic crown.
That's still not bad.
Mhm.
So have you thought about, because we did mention with the med spa idea, with nesting of these two businesses, have you thought about production of FDA cleared mandibular advancement devices and things like that?
Yes.
Or, okay. And I know that there's a lot that goes into that, like a lot. Most people, I think, don't understand how much. Or have you guys introduced that yet? Or is it something?
Not yet. And I'm going to push your idea even further. The way I have set up my lab and the vision for my lab and how it ties in my company and research. Let's talk about that because this is briefly touching those areas.
Okay.
What funds research in dentistry?
Research in dentistry, what funds it? Student tuition for one,
Mhm.
through the dental schools,
Mhm.
and profits for companies for another.
Corporates, right? So it's either corporates or university based. There are grants that come into play, but not as significant, right? The university based research, I was part of it. I was a tired third year resident trying to push through research because that was not my primary goal. My primary goal was to graduate and get my clinical requirements and make sure my patients are okay, right? So there is good university based research that comes out, but the volume is not anywhere close to what it is needed. What fills in the gap? Corporates. Tell me one
Hmm.
corporate company which today has said their product is second best.
Yeah.
No one can be the best all the time.
There was actually, I'm going to have to look this up. We'll look at it later. There was actually a company whose entire premise was advertising that their product was the second best.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'd love that.
Yeah. Finish your thought, though.
Yeah.
I'm going to look that up because it was hilarious.
So, my point was research needs funding in an unbiased way. Where do we raise funds for research where it is unbiased? So, the lab is meant to do that. The profits from the lab eventually are going to fund the research because a lot of the research is going to use equipment and facilities of the lab. Right? So that was the basis of how Auris Dental Lab was incorporated. And it's become a part of this larger organization because the profits from this are going to pour into either expansion or research. Now, mandibular advancement devices, FDA clearances, I have a different purview of it where I'm not going to need it, period.
Okay.
Um, to a point where I've thought it out, I have the pieces in place. I just don't have the money or the space yet. But there will come a point where our lab will be able to manufacture custom implants for you as a practitioner.
So are we talking tooth form, or are we talking
Any form that you want.
Oh no, I'm thinking more on the ones that are printed to match the extraction socket.
You can. If you send me the data, I'll be able to print, manufacture, mill that implant for you, and you'll be able to place it in your patient's mouth.
So, Avis, we're number 2, so you try harder. That was them.
Oh, that is hilarious.
It's a great great ad campaign.
Great ad campaign. Yeah. So, going back, so that was the premise of starting that in lab, to pour money into research, to eventually become a medical manufacturing facility where we are not charging an arm and a leg. Like, for example, currently, if you want an artificial joint, your TMJ joint replaced, the joint itself, the manufacturing takes, I think, 12 to 16 weeks, and it's charged at like 15 or $16,000 per joint.
Are they finally printing those with calcium hydroxide?
No,
I-
it's still titanium.
Okay, because I know that there was some research in actually printing calcium hydroxide for joint replacement.
It's still titanium, high density polymer weight joint or the socket, and this is still titanium, right? Um, but does that joint need to cost $15,000? No. And that is the whole premise behind the lab, which is why I said I'll tackle the discount later question, because if you look at the fee structure of my lab, it's made to be fair. It's not made to be, I'm going to grow this and I'm going to have a yacht for myself from this lab, just like some individual starting with a G and ending with an L has. Uh, that is not the premise, right? Look at pricing. Let's talk about pricing a little bit. When you look at implant parts, when you look at implants, different implants have different price points. We know Straumann and Nobel are more expensive than BioHorizon. Right? I'm not questioning their model. I'm just saying that that is their price point. The price point for the abutment is similar. It is a little lesser. But when you send your implant crown to the lab, why do you get charged the same price? It's not fair to you.
No, but it gives them profits, which
Right. So my point is, in our lab, depending on what implant you use, we are only adding a certain percentage of operational cost on it, and we are passing on that saving back to you. So inherently, you will save money. My Nobel original abutment and a crown is less than $400. It's like 389 something. This is an original Nobel abutment and a zirconia crown. And for all practical purposes, a premier zirconia crown, because I'm using a multi-layered zirconia versus any other lab outside. Compare the prices, right?
thankfully I no longer have lab prices memorized. So
So pricing is, sorry to cut you off. So
no,
pricing is one thing.
I'm thinking about something.
Yeah. Another thing is, when it comes to the lab, right? How many times, just go back to your days when you were practicing, Saturday morning, you'd be like, oh, I forgot to send this to the lab. I need to send this message out. What do you do? Right? You'll have to wait until Monday, call the lab, and then leave that message. Right? So what I said, communication with the lab in today's day and age has to be very different. So what do? We have Microsoft Teams. Your office and my office is on the same team. So let's say on a Saturday, you're like, hey, I think Mrs. Smith's implant was an RP, not an NP. Send it out. You don't have to remember it for later. Now, I'm not saying we are 24/7, but the point is, you can send all the messages and all the information 24/7, and you don't have to store it in your head. How many times do you need to take photographs from a camera where your assistant needs to download it and send it to the lab, and they don't? It happens every day in my practice. Now, because we are app based on Teams, for most of the things, you have a good phone, you put it on a good rig. A good friend of yours makes some very good rigs.
Yes, I do.
I use that all the time. I give it to all of my clients. They put it on there, they take pictures.
So, Vu Lee, shout out to you for the absolutely amazing work that you've done. And congratulations on finally framing your patent.
Amazing work, Dr. Lee. So, yeah, get that, give it to your assistant. Open the Teams app and take a picture right there. it goes immediately directly to the lab. You don't have to download, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that. It becomes seamless. So it takes away a lot of the communication stress from you and your team. And here's the other thing. Why is only the doctor in touch with the lab? Right? The entire team is in touch with my entire team. So if you have an admin question, my admin person will answer. If you have a clinical question like, hey doc, what do you think about this contact? Do you think I need to rescan this? You need a second opinion? I'm there. I can help you and guide you through. Right? So you have seamless communication and you have the backing of a clinical prosthodontist. I need second opinions too. I have a group also. I send a message out. Hey guys, what do you think of this? Do I do this with this cement or do you think this will work? Right? We all need a second opinion. Just like you said, we all need collaboration. In your lab, now you have a collaborator who is a clinician, who's done this before, who does this every day with you. So I can recognize you.
I love it. Okay. So guys, we're just getting to the end of our podcast here. If you'd like more information on either using the lab, you want to bring your game to the next level, or if you're interested in the med spa licensing agreement, you want to know more information about it, how do they get in touch with you?
Great. So what we're going to do is we're going to build out a landing page, okay, which is going to be specifically for your listeners, for the TBOD listeners.
Fantastic.
You'll go onto the landing page, you'll check mark what you're interested in, all the way from, hey, I just want to purchase one device and go from there, to I want a med spa, to, hey, I want to be in the lab. We'll have specials listed out for you. Everything will be geared towards the TBOD members. Those emails will come directly to me and you at the same time, so you'll know everything. And then that is how we start doing business. How you incorporate that in your podcast, I'll leave that technical up to you. A link, a QR code, we have everything available for the landing page. Go read it, go click it, and then we'll serve you.
Well, most likely, whenever this podcast hits, you'll have had the landing page made. So we'll put it down below in the description. And if for some reason it's not in the description, feel free to DM me and I'll get you in touch with him. Or you can DM him and just tell him, hey, I heard about this on TBOD and I'm interested.
Excellent. Yep. We'll have the links ready for you.
Fantastic. Well, guys, thank you for joining us today. I truly hope that this podcast has been educational and you've gotten some real thought out of this. It's made you think about the way you practice, think about the way you could practice, and maybe made you consider doing a med lab.
Everyone should do it. I hope I can inspire at least 2 people to do this. My life.
Dr. Aggarwal, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Doc. Thank you for having me.
You guys, until the next time, this is Doc. I'm out of here.
And watch me educate. Yeah, we been could've started, but it's never late. Do it for my kids, yeah, let's set it straight. Do it for your kids, gotta set it straight. It's time to regulate. We need change now.